conversation. Call, tweet, or text Schopp and the Bulldog this afternoon, 3 to 7 p.m. on WGR Sports Radio 550. The official voice of the Buffalo Bills, WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR.
Conference, but he's also going to be joining Schopp and the Bulldog in just a few minutes, so do stay tuned for that. And again, if you missed any of this, you can find it at our website, WGR550.com, or on the Odyssey app. Around the rest of the NFL, Ravens kicker Justin Tucker has been accused of inappropriate sexual behavior by 6 massage therapists. This is being reported by the Baltimore Banner. Tucker has also released a statement calling the allegations against him unequivocally false. Eagles edge rusher Brandon Graham has had his 21-day practice window opened as he looks to play in the Super Bowl next Sunday against Kansas City. And Senior Bowl practices are wrapping up today, with the game being held on Saturday at 2:30. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 of the new Chevy from Paddock. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Hi there, welcome. Already facing some adversity.
Oh, what's that?
I'm using a pen that went through the wash recently.
That doesn't seem.
I grabbed it from the top of the washing machine or the dryer. I figured like it was a kind of a success story. That the pen, here it is, viewers,
all right,
intact. It's got the ink sort of welled up near the tip, which is, I think, probably a sign that it might have gone through the wash or had some trauma.
Yeah.
And I just sort of wiped the tip of it a little bit here, and it's all over my fingers now. Black. See?
Didn't it get all over the laundry if it went through the
wash? No, I think unscathed.
That's a miracle.
That it's definitely gone the other way. This is a mistake that I commonly make, is to not empty my pockets before doing laundry. And here was an example, and I think I mostly got away with it. If it only cost me the pen, that's a win. But the pen works.
You want me to see if I got a pen on this side of the room you can borrow?
No, it works. It works.
It works.
Just don't touch it.
Well, that seems like an impediment to using the pen.
Now I just touched my eye, and there's ink in my eye probably now.
I mean, you can use the pen. It just doesn't seem. Wow.
Impediment, you mean?
That's it. I gotta go.
Brandon Bean playing some Would You Take? Right there.
Yeah, right.
We expect to have Sean McDermott shortly. I don't know if he's wrapped yet with everybody else, but we're expecting him to call us. Bean playing the game. This is one of our games. We had this exact question already this week. Would you take the same 3.5 minutes to go down 3 points in next year's AFC Championship? And he's like, of course. And I think that's the right answer.
Me too, even though I didn't want it 3 days or 2 days before the actual AFC Championship game this time around. But really, because I was probably ridiculously optimistic, given how it turned out. But sure, yeah, I think right now, I would still,
Everybody should always want that.
Yeah, I think, we can quibble about whether you'd rather have that game at home. Of course you would. And, maybe things are different if that's the case.
Do you think they would be?
I don't know. I mean, they had them at home last year in the same scenario, and, we know how that turned out. So
I do, though.
It didn't. But, yeah, sure. I think, making checks. I don't know. Maybe even that final play is different. If they can hear, if Allen feels like he can move people around more, but that sort of flies in the face of them being surprised by what Kansas City did there, and the fact that it was, at least the way guys talked afterwards, surprising. It tells you that maybe communicating wouldn't have done any good because they might have felt like there was nothing to communicate. They're lined up like this. We think we know what that means, and so okay, hike. let's play the feud.
I wonder what data looks like home and away in terms of blitzing, because you're feeding off the crowd energy there. I think do you think this is crazy? Like that you'd be more inclined to blitz more often when you're playing at home? You think that would be right? It wouldn't be a huge difference.
I don't know. I don't think it's a crazy thing to ponder. I think it's even possible that a coach calling the plays could get caught up in the excitement of the home crowd and think like, I gotta finish these guys right now.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have to go well.
Right, but I gotta, that's. But the noise is a part of it. Like I think that thought process doesn't have to just be, unfounded, misplaced bravado on the part of the coach. The coach might feel like this is an opportunity to do this because they can't hear, and that could play. Sure. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some subtle difference in blitz percentage home versus away.
I don't know about yesterday, but when I was here Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and doing Matt Coller's podcast today, talking so much about officiating, and really that alone is why I'd be tempted to say if they had been at home, they win. Because that's really, that's easily the number one, I say easily, that's the number one proven and provable factor in officiating is who is the home team. It's been studied. Like there is data to claim that supports that. And I think, if it's a quarterback sneak or if it's just 50-50 calls, illegal contact, these kind of plays, I would sooner think that whoever's home, Chiefs, part of the Chiefs having that, evidence that they get calls is because, it's almost the same point. They're excellent. And with that, they're playing these games at home. In the playoffs, not last year, but most years, they're only at home in the postseason, and home teams get calls. So would that have been necessarily the difference in the game? We don't know that. But, yeah, I tend to think that. And it wasn't unfair, but it's such a shame that the Bills didn't get that for the season they had. Like, for all the takes that are flying around, would anybody be like, you really needed to beat Houston in Week 5? Because it was, such a great season. Mm-hmm. Throw out New England at the end. Right. Where they go in 13-3 and there's nothing to play for. That was not good enough to even get them within one. All they had to do was tie, having beaten Kansas City for home field, and the season they had was not good enough. One bad night in Baltimore, the close loss to the Texans and the close loss to the Rams, no home losses, and that was not good enough for home field. Really kind of amazing. Philadelphia, I guess, would be close to the same. They also won. Minnesota won 14 games and was the 5 seed. Yeah, it was one of those years.
They go on the road in the wild card round. That is a tough. That's some tough.
There were too many bad teams this year. Mm-hmm. Too many teams that were really bad. It sort of stretched out the standings, I guess. But what do you do about it? When are we done with the game itself?
I probably after today. I think. Maybe Friday, because we through the week, through a weekend, and it's sort of it really settles in, right? There's no football this weekend Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Are the Pro Bowl games this weekend? Does that happen this weekend?
Yes, of course they are.
So okay, I stand by it. There's no football this weekend.
There's flag football.
There's no football. So although the Shrine game, I mean, I'm watching. I'm watching cut-ups of players at the not the Shrine, the Senior Bowl.
Senior Bowl.
What's going on? Yeah, I'm doing some of that. But yeah, I think once we get through another weekend, and it's Super Bowl week, then I think you're done. Sitting with the game that was the previous Sunday.
Last year, that lasted a little bit longer. I was hung up on the events of that last possession last year, and so that dragged out a little bit, but certainly didn't drag on all offseason. Joining us now on the Wester Hotline is Bills head coach Sean McDermott. Hi, Sean. Thanks for your time today.
Hey, we doing? Good afternoon, Schopp. Good to be back with you again and catch up here for a little bit.
Those guys didn't wear you out? I mean, that was a good 45 minutes or more?
It seemed like a long run there, yeah.
That's as much as I talked all year.
Yeah, I mean, of course, obviously, goes without saying you'd love to be coaching right now with one more game left, but you're not. I mean, are you eager to get away? What do you do to get away? A beach? A safari? What is your vibe when you get away from football?
No, it's I am eager to get some rest. It's always when you wrap up a season, there's a lot more to kind of wrap up, tie up, put a bow on, make sure you go into some of the days off where you can go into the days off with a clear mind. So we're still working through that. It'll be another couple of days and maybe in the next week. But when we do get away, what am I? I'm more of a hey, let's. Tell me where the family is. That's where I want to be, and we'll go wherever they are. And if it's the beach, if it's a lake or what have you, we'll do that. But I don't know if you've seen me of late, but my skin doesn't really do well with the beach quite often.
I can relate.
You're going to need a big hat, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. We started streaming our shows on video, and I'm trying to figure out why my face always looks purple, Sean. I don't think I'm purple, but for some reason on these video platforms we're on, I look purple. So maybe I need less sun, even though I live in Buffalo. I don't know. I can't really explain it. With like getting away in mind, Sean, the way the season ended at the hands of the Chiefs again, I started saying even before the game, like if it goes the Chiefs' way, it's going to start to feel inevitable that they will beat you when you meet them. How much, if at all, do you feel like you yourself or you, as it trickles down through the organization, need to guard against that feeling seeping into anyone over there?
You do. You do have to guard against it. And in order to do that, your mindset has to be such or oriented in a way of remembering, the successful accomplishments that we've had, whether it just be this past season or before that. But there is an element though still of we have to compare ourselves or evaluate ourselves against the best two teams right now, right? And what they do, what their personnel looks like, how they do it, so on and so forth, because that is the litmus test. And so there is an element of diving into that, and Chiefs in this case, and their personnel and the way they do things coaching-wise, or just, across their building. And then also with the Philadelphia Eagles. So there is some of that, but I do think that it's got to be well-rounded enough that you don't get yourself into a mental pit, so to speak.
So we don't want to ask you anything that you just had to answer here in the last hour, and we were able to watch most of that. We were just talking as you called, like when do we just sort of get over Sunday and not talk about like the plays and the details of the game. If you don't mind, a couple of questions about the game, though. I wonder, was there something defensively that you expected to go like meaningfully better? I mean, Kansas City had, for them, it seemed more of a trying year on offense, but they were able to score over 30 points Sunday. Was there something, as you prepared for the game, that you thought you had in the matchup that didn't come to fruition?
Well, you're always confident going into a game when you spend all week shaping a game plan, right? No different than the Denver game against a good offensive coach, good head coach, and Sean Payton, or the Baltimore game against Lamar and John Harbaugh. You go into a game shaping a game plan that you feel like is going to give you the best chance to win, and there's got to be a complementary piece, meaning all three phases working together. to defeat the opponent overall. But I would say that probably the biggest challenge we faced was when they started to, when it was clear that they were wanting to get the ball out fast, whether it was by RPOs or quick game passes. We were going to have to tighten it up and go man to man in order to at least try and win some second down and longs or first downs to put us in second and long, to get into some third downs or third downs and third and long. So I think that's really where they started to get the production that they did is in some of those situations.
How much did what they did surprise you? A couple of players on both sides of the ball, to my ears, Sunday night. I know it's a long time ago now. I mean, it's only 4 days, but it feels like it's been a month just dwelling on it. But guys sounded, offensive players and defensive players, surprised by some of what Kansas City did. If you agree with that assessment, how do you avoid that? Like, do you look at that and think, I should have been better? We all as coaches should have been better. We should have, spent more time. I mean, there's only so much time in the day. Like, how do you avoid being, not prepared for something?
Yeah, I think I'm going to walk that back a little bit. Not prepared isn't to me an overstatement. Every game, I won't say every game, but I would say 80% of games at this level, there's something that the other coaching staff does that is trying to surprise the other opponent, right, the other team. And in this case, there were a couple of, call it unscouted looks. That being said, we try and prepare our players for every possible situation that could come up, and we prepare them game plan wise, but we also prepare them from a standpoint of, hey, if you come across an unscouted look, this is what your default is. Kind of like rules of engagement, right? Mm-hmm. So, and the way we teach our players and what we ask them to do is when that happens, you BSU in a physical manner, which stands for blow. I don't want to say the next
gotcha.
Blow, up. Yeah. And that's what you do in the game of football. If you come across an unscouted look, you default to your rules, and then you blow up in a physical manner. Because usually when you do that in this game, good things happen.
How much of a factor, if at all, in that sort of preparation do you think the bye week is? Something that you guys, despite having an excellent season this year and other really good seasons that are comparable, have just not been able to get there. Kansas City has been in the way of that. How much of a factor is the extra week of preparation that they would have had at the end that you were not afforded?
Great question. I would say, Bulldog, that the most important piece to getting the bye, and I've been there, multiple times and having the bye, is the rest for the players and somewhat the coaches, right, and staff, and but certainly the players. They go all season long. It's a long year. It got extended a few years ago, another week, and you're playing a long season. That being said, it's not the end-all, be-all. You see teams every season make it to and win the Super Bowl who just play at a level that it doesn't matter whether you had the bye or not, right? You're talking about the level of play on any given day or any given Sunday in this case. And so is the bye, would it be great to have? Yes. Is the end-all, be-all? Not necessarily.
I mean, this is not something you need to be told. Just thinking about how fine the line is. I mean, Bulldog and I are going to talk about this again this offseason for months and just scrutinizing all different facets of it. I was talking to a friend in Minnesota about Kevin O'Connell, who was on the Rams staff when the Rams won. And he, at one point, my guy, Matt Collar, asked him about, sort of what happened, that year. And he said, the thing I think about in winning a Super Bowl is how many times we came so close to not. Whether it's the game itself or the San Francisco game before that, Tampa, other rounds, just sort of getting the breaks. And I doubt you or anybody in your profession wants to think about how random stuff is sometimes, but it's there, that's something that we'll be talking about and maybe fending off mostly this year is the idea that, you do need to get a little lucky.
No doubt. And I used to work for a guy named Jim Johnson, who's no longer with us, and he would always say, and I was a younger coach at the time in Philadelphia, and he was an older coach, a veteran coach, I should say. He would always say, you got to be a little lucky. You got to get a little lucky. And at the time I was so naive. I'd be like, no, we'll be fine and this and that. But over the course of time, you grow and you're like, you know what, you do need things to line up a little bit. You look at the Ravens situation, right, with the 2-point conversion, and so there's things that do come into play from time to time, and you do need to get a little bit lucky. And I hate saying that because I never rely on luck, but it certainly is a nice cherry on top from time to time.
Just a few minutes left with Sean McDermott. One question I have about the offense going into next year, and I think maybe you got this question or something about it toward the end earlier, is stretching the field. It was, with all the success, franchise record in points and second in the league, I wondered at times if the Bills had enough punch when it came to, vertically. And is that something that, you would agree with? Or, come on, Mike, we scored 529 points, 29 points in the loss. You're never perfect, I'm sure you would say, but I wonder if you want more of that next year.
I think that's something we definitely have to look at, Mike. And when you look at the analytics of it and the numbers, we were aware of that. I was aware of it during the course of the season, in particular, more so at other times where it was definitely, and we haven't been able to get one down the field in quite some time, several weeks, what have you. It is something that we have to look at. And because of the defensive, these defenses evolving into more cover 2, split safety looks, sometimes that inhibits, the ability to throw the ball down the field. But, more and more we're starting to see less cover 2 because of potentially our run game, which to me is a good thing, because that should free us up to take some shots in one-on-one situations down the field, to your point. And they don't always have to be, goal balls down the sideline, but they can be deep over routes, what have you. And, sometimes those were taken away. We tried them, but they were taken away. And then other times maybe we didn't connect and execute the way we wanted to.
Sean, it was noticeable to me listening to both your and Brandon Beane's appearances with the media today that you struck a similar chord on Dalton Concade. Not about consoling him about not catching that last pass, but about the year he had and about getting stronger and bigger. And I just wonder if that was something that you were looking for him to do last offseason, and did he not come through in some way, or is this something new after year 2 that you're feeling like he needs to do some work in the lab, so to speak, in the gym, and sort of just put on a little more muscle mass?
Well, it's funny because, Dalton he's one of our hardest workers, and we usually hand out some off-season awards in terms of, workout warrior, I guess, for lack of a better word, type of awards, and he's put in a lot of time, and so that's, we've got to find another way perhaps, or double down on that to help him, number one, make it through a season, but number 2, also improve his play strength, right? And, some of these guys, like I mentioned, come out of college and they're not asked to lift as much, or they don't have that background, but, we got to find something that works to be able to help him, like I said, from an availability standpoint, and then also from a play strength standpoint.
Sean, if you don't mind, there's a movement in Bills fans and maybe a lot of other teams. They're going to boycott the Super Bowl. They say they're tired of it. They're tired of these teams. Will you definitely watch? If you don't mind the question, will you definitely? I have skipped a couple myself. I'm here to tell fans you could do it. Will you watch the game?
Like fans, my first inclination is I don't want to see one drop of the teams that are playing. No disrespect, that's just the competitor in me. I think what I'll skip is all of the run-up or watching, the planes land, and because that's, having been in the Super Bowl a few times, that's part of the experience that I wanted and still want for our fans, for the Pagula family, for our players, our staff. And that's part of the experience, and that's what makes it so much fun, the excitement leading up to the game, right? All the preparation. So I will definitely not I will definitely make sure that I turn the channel if I see any semblance of that on TV over the next couple of days and next week. But the game itself is an area that we can all learn from. And my iPad will be next to me, and I just believe in that. Like, you just see, hey, whether it's, this way that the game was managed, or this type of play concept, or this collection of personnel, so on and so forth. I just think you can take something out of it, especially when the two best teams at this point in the NFL are playing together here.
We didn't know each other, but we were at the Super Bowl together in Jacksonville. You mentioned having been to a few with the Eagles back in 2005. I had a nice conversation with John Harbaugh that week, just sort of randomly, the media day scene. But that staff, it's yourself, Harbaugh, of course, Andy Reid. You mentioned Johnson, who has ties to our area. And even Steve Spagnuolo was on that staff in Philadelphia. Pretty good.
No, great staff. I mean, I don't know if there will ever be a staff with that many, guys that went on to become head coaches again. I mean, Andy did a phenomenal job of constructing that staff, and I think one of the biggest things I learned was, you got to know what you're doing. You got to have a certain level of competence, but you also have to have a certain, type of person on your staff, and the collaboration and all that goes into it is huge. I mean. And then, like one of the other things was just the standard that he held us all to on a day-to-day basis. And so it's hard to win unless every person, every department is willing to hold themselves to that standard.
Well, congrats on a fine season, Sean. Thanks for your time today, and enjoy the break to whatever extent you can, and hopefully it's long enough for you. Thanks.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys, and we're going to continue to work to get ourselves back there and eventually lift this trophy that we're all trying to lift here.
All right. Thanks again, Sean.
Thank you.
Sean McDermott on the West Shore Hotline here on WGR.
Sorry about that, folks. It's Bulldog here for FanDuel. The kick of destiny is back, and this time it's every Manning for himself. The Super Bowl II legends will take the field in a sudden death field goal showdown. Peyton versus Eli, live from New Orleans. One kick to claim ultimate family bragging rights. Who will rise to the moment? Pick your winner now in the FanDuel app, and if you back the right brother, you'll earn a share of $10 million in bonus bets. It's the FanDuel Kick of Destiny 3. Make your free pick, and don't forget to tune in to watch the showdown live during the Super Bowl 59 pregame show on Fox at 3 p.m. Eastern. May the best Manning win. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com/Bulldog and bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59 and WGR. Must be 21 plus and physically present in New York. No purchase necessary. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For all with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
I used to work for a guy named Jim Johnson, who's no longer with us, and he would always say, and I was a younger coach at the time in Philadelphia, and you got to get a little lucky. And, at the time I was so naive, I'd be like, no, we'll be fine and this and that. But over the course of time, you grow and you're like, you know what, you do need things to line up a little bit. You look at the Ravens situation, right, with the 2-point conversion. And so there's things that do come into play from time to time, and you do need to get a little bit lucky. And I hate saying that because I never rely on luck, but it certainly is a nice cherry on top from time to time.
Sean McDermott just a few minutes ago with us. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here on WGR. Lines are open for your calls throughout the day. 803-0550. Joe Ostrowski at 4 from BetQL Daily. And we'll talk to Sal in the 5 o'clock hour. Sorry to not be with you yesterday. I was experiencing this late on Tuesday's show, and I think I said to you also, this has never happened to me.
You weren't sick, but your voice was going.
I lost my voice Tuesday night and felt it happening, but I felt great. And I don't remember ever in my life having experienced that. And then it was almost hilarious to me during the hockey game on Tuesday night. I'm sort of, reacting to it, and there was no noise. Like I just, what is this?
Right.
What is this?
Yeah.
So
it must have been something because you texted me and asked me to call you. Which, I don't
call
know.
me.
When's the last time we've spoken on the phone?
Never.
I mean, it's just been forever.
Only if one of us was on the air.
We've spoken. Right. Right. I got a day off. I'm calling in for reverse AFC power rankings or something, or picks or whatever.
Which, by the way, we did not do.
No, I was aware of that. I was tempted to do it yesterday without you. No, I really wasn't. But, yeah, I thought it really had to be something because you asked me to call you, and I couldn't because I was at a concert. It would have been
I wanted everybody. I wanted anybody to call me because I was home alone, and Margot just doesn't get the job done. A puppy, really, she notices.
But if you couldn't talk and no sound was coming out, what would have happened if I called you? Would I just heard you going?
It would have sounded like a whisper.
Okay.
Like a really aggressive whisper or something. I don't know. I just wanted somebody. And when my wife and daughter got home, I'm like, guys. Listen to this.
It's amazing that it came and went so fast. I did not expect. We were texting last night, and I just assumed you were, we were just chit-chatting about the SNL 50th anniversary music special or whatever it was.
Yes.
And eventually, I had to just flat out are you okay? Can you talk? Yeah. Like on the radio? I thought you still would be down.
I don't know. I can feel it.
Yeah.
It's when I raise my voice that I lose it.
Be careful.
And yesterday I spent most of the day, down here. Mm-hmm. It's there.
Yeah.
I hope it isn't permanent. But anyway, yeah, that was new for me. The point on Concade that Bean made and McDermott made, they want him to get stronger.
Yeah.
So they drafted him at this size. They drafted him to be a seam stretcher.
Right.
And I wonder if it's right to infer something about Knox. If they want to sort of imagine a future with Concade where he plays with a bigger body and has his hand down more often and plays a different role, maybe they're a little bit giving up on the seam stretcher thing and want him to be.
I wonder.
Knox is a big savings if they were to cut him.
Yeah.
It's a lot of dead money too, but they can save, I read from Pro Football Network, $5 million this year, 7.4 next. 2026, that is, but have 9.5 dead if they were to cut him post June 1. It's a big contract.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it sounds today, both of those guys. That's why I wanted to ask Sean about it. We didn't have a chance to talk to Brandon Bean ourselves, but I thought it was interesting. Like that, certainly those streams of what they are asked about and things that they say cross occasionally, but that was a pretty specific critique, suggestion, whatever, answer to questions about Dalton Concade, I thought. And I feel like we're a long way from Cole Beasley in a tight end's body. If you're telling me he's got to put on muscle mass, to what extent? Like, I wonder how far. I probably should have followed up there. Like, how far do you want to go with that? Because there is a balance right? I mean, if he's supposed to bring something to the offense, and, I recognize here this is largely in theory because we have not really seen it much. I wouldn't say if at all. I mean, we've seen it some, but just not as frequently as I think we were expecting him going down the field and being used that way. If you're asking him to put on 15 pounds or 20 pounds, and I have no idea, maybe they just want 5. I don't know. But that could change his athletic profile, obviously. And so what are we looking for? Exactly, right? Like you're saying, are you trying to turn him into more of a player like Knox?
An actual tight end.
Because that wasn't the idea, I don't think. The idea was you've got Knox already. He's our traditional tight end, and we've got this guy who's Cole Beasley in the tight end's body. And, okay.
Well, his season high was 53 yards.
Right.
He never led them in catches, I think, for 1 week. Joe had that stat, didn't he? Or yards, not catches, but yards.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Tyrell Shavers led them in yards
all the way. Yeah, I mean,
in one game.
Right.
So his high was 6 catches against the Jets. His high in yards was 53 against Detroit. Just not in the playoffs. Not a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, I wonder about Knox. He'll be somebody we're talking about, and I feel like that could line up. That they sort of change Kincaid's role in the future. Here's Wade with us. Hi, Wade.
Hi, how are you guys today?
Good, Wade. Thanks for calling us.
So I've been listening to people talk about Sean McDermott for years, and I coached football for 38 years, high school football in Rochester, head coach, and I can tell you this about Sean McDermott. Prior to Sean McDermott, we didn't have 5 straight division championships. Prior to Sean McDermott, we didn't have a 53-man roster that was almost all usable on game day. Prior to Sean McDermott, we didn't develop assistant coaches like he does and continues to do. Prior to Sean McDermott, we didn't have a professionalism about us that's second to none in the NFL. Prior to Sean McDermott, we didn't win like we win in the playoffs, even though I don't think we're winning enough. We want to win more. I get all that. Be careful what you ask for. We got a top 5 coach in the league, and he's a great guy for our community, and I couldn't say more good things. Oh, and our halftime adjustments are always useful and put us in a position to win. So I can't say nothing but great things about Sean McDermott.
So it seems.
Well, as a former coach.
Yep.
And as a fan.
All right. Thank you. Good. I don't think there's any question he's going to be around, so.
Right. I echo a lot of that. I really do. I mean, I recognize the shortcomings, but I feel like the shortcomings overlook the large mass of quality work that's been done here with the organization. I hate to sound like one of the program they've built here. I mean, they have built a program, and they seem to attract the sort of players they want for it. They have to get more good players, I think. Like that almost has to happen. Like difference makers on both sides of the ball need to be found. I just don't think there's enough of them. And KC, I think the team that's in your way here most of the time has more of them than you. And so there's, they're not a perfect machine, but yeah, I think the day-to-day, the week-to-week, and the losses and the frustration that come along with it is all understandable. But at the end of it, I still look at the massive work and just say it's still been a job well done. But that's where I come down. But I'm not ready to give the level of speech that Wade was.
I mean, it was like a political speech, right. Just the repetition and
right.
the phrasing,
right.
and
right.
just very Kennedy-esque. I might even go that far.
Wow! All right.
His mantra, kind of maybe my favorite moment of the conversation was the blow S up point,
right.
Which is interesting, right? If you've got to, what was it? If you've got a look you're not ready for, you just got to win physically.
Right.
Similar to a coach my daughter has had, the mantra. only instead of the word blow, there's an F word that this coach uses.
Yeah.
So it's a very similar term.
Yeah,
phrase.
same sentiment, really. Yeah,
Same
I
sentiment.
think I get it. Assuming the F word you're referring to is not fluff.
It's the word. It's the word you're thinking of. It is. Yeah, like that. It's just kind of interesting to hear like a coach,
like a professional,
get his whole team to chant that.
Right.
His team of kids. We're a big fan of this coach, actually, so we decided it was okay.
All right.
Joe Ostrowski at 4. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR. Viewers on our live stream that we're now doing daily have the inside information that listeners do not at this moment, which is that Bulldog is not yet back in his chair. So now everybody knows. I don't know, he may have left. Something might have been said. He might have tripped somewhere. Is just helplessly screaming into the abyss a few hallways away. I don't know. We'll get an update on that. Hopefully it'll be him returning and talking. Here's Ray with us. Hello, Ray. With me. Ray.
Hi, gentlemen. Thanks for taking my call. I was. I'm still mourning the loss, like many of us, and I was hoping you all could help in my processing. What's been most confusing, frustrating, is the decision making at the end of the game. Specifically, the questionable calls, notwithstanding. After we went down by 3, we had over 3 minutes left, 3 timeouts, and we called 5 pass plays and 1 rush. The first to Ty Johnson went for a loss. Josh runs on the second. It was a pass play, but he runs for a first down. We're at the 43-yard line. We still have over 2 minutes, 3 timeouts. And I'm wondering your guys' take on the 4 straight pass plays after that. Given we had a 12-play drive that took over 7 minutes earlier in the game, there was no sense of urgency. We're only down by 3. What's your take on why the 4 straight pass plays resulting in the 4th and 5 and obviously the drop pass? I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Okay. I have zero problem with it. They run the ball a lot and generally well, but I'd much rather have the game in Allen's hands. If ultimately you want to get me to say run the ball once, just in a vacuum, I guess, but I don't have some big objection to what they did. And as far as urgency goes, they really were in a position where the clock was not at all their enemy. It could have even been their friend.
Right. I'm waiting here to say, sorry, I was late.
You're back.
Sorry, I was late walking in. Does it matter? I was talking to not one but 2 of the bosses, and I was like, I got to go.
How did they not know that you're needed back here?
They probably thought I had a handle on how much time was left in the break, and apparently I did not.
That's fair.
Anyway, I think if they – time and place. If they get that first down, then I think you slow down, right? There's enough time left there where then I think you got to start slow playing to not. Obviously, you want to get your touchdown and you don't want to be too picky about when that comes, but then maybe Cook gets back on the field and I'm just gonna run and maybe Kansas City's got to burn timeouts and like we get into that game. So I also have no trouble keeping the ball in Josh Allen's hands. It didn't work. Obviously should have done something else. But I think the slowdown and, I didn't need urgency there. What I needed maybe more than anything else was patience. And I guess that could play into why not run it there right away. You don't have to wait to get that first down to start being patient.
But you do have to get it.
Right.
And really that's not true. I've had this complaint that their offense is too short. They did throw the ball downfield on the first down, although I think it was a throwaway. And the second down was batted at the line. Third down is a screen. I accept. McDermott again today said how close they were to getting a big play out of that. It was Cooper, and he just was not much of a player by the end here this year. No real danger in his game. And, maybe you pick someone else, but who's that? Just second guess all day long. The 4th down play is a jailbreak. So, I don't really mind. It's so weird how similar these 2 most recent playoff losses are. One here, one there. Both Chiefs, both 3 points. Both got you to the 2-minute warning. Last year, they're in field goal range. And this year, of course, they were not. But the 4th down play to Concade this year comes right after the 2-minute warning, and there you go. Well, there's time to prepare on both sides, and the Chiefs win. They win that play in a knockout. Last year, it was the 2-minute warning, and they had 2nd and 9 at the Kansas City 26, and that's when Allen threw it in the end zone, where he had Diggs alone across the middle, and it didn't work out. 3rd down is kind of not quite a jailbreak, drill, but close.
Yeah.
and then you have the field goal miss, and both games end with, well, also last year, the Chiefs needed a first down.
And they got it both times.
And they got it, and then Sunday they needed 2 to be able to kneel it out, and they got it on Sunday too. Just open backs, like it's Pacheco on Sunday, as it was last year, and it was Pirine. That was his only touch in the game. Mm-hmm. So when it came down to it, that seemed pretty easy. I wasn't here yesterday, and there's not much time here before our next break, but I can't believe the Thompson hat trick happened.
Why?
I'm so sorry.
Because I closed the store down on a day when people were ready to buy.
I'm at home. You're at a concert, and you'll have your story. I'm home alone, like I told you, unable to speak. And I have the game on. I've been in and out of the game. I saw they were way up. And I see Paterka score empty net, I think it was, and hat trick. And I thought to myself, at least it wasn't Thompson.
Oh, right. You didn't know. Yeah.
I didn't hear you mention having a bet.
Yeah, I didn't.
You could have.
Yeah.
But if you didn't, at least it wasn't. And he'd already had a hat trick in the game.
I left here after talking to Paul, our end of pregame, and knew I was going to get home and be pretty hurried to get out the door to this concert. And so, but I thought, I went home like, should I set aside so I knew a couple things. I knew my account was empty. Not that it takes a long time to deposit, money in your account there. They make it pretty easy for you.
Still.
So, but I thought, you know what? It's Boston. I'm in the freezer here. I've not won any bet. I mean, this bet is it's a business plan. You got to just stay with it. You don't expect to win frequently, but when you win, it will pay off fivefold for what you've put in. That's what happened last year. And if I'd done that again, that would have happened this year. But I'm like, I don't need, I'm chasing it. I let me just calm down a little bit. And maybe Friday, they're playing Nashville. It's Rob Ray night, whatever. I'll just take the night off. And so about, half an hour, 40 minutes. The band came on stage at like 8:05. So Thompson already had maybe 2 goals by the time the show starts. And a few minutes into the concert, one of my sons, both of them were there with me, tugged my arm and said, "Thompson's got 2 goals. Do you have your bet in?" I'm like, "Nope." And then I look at my phone. Zach's texting me, Jeremy, whatever. I'm just getting unloaded on because he got the 3rd one early in the period, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't do it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Why am I sorry? I'm sorry for myself.
You've let your fans down.
Yes. And I really do. And I mean this sincerely. I appreciate how many people out there in our audience were, they didn't know I didn't have a bet in. I think they would have just assumed I had it in because I talk about it like it's a business plan. I got to do it. And so people were like, congratulations. I'm so happy. I hope you had the bet in. Way to go, Bulldog. Awesome. I couldn't even possibly respond to all of them if I wanted to, which is very flattering.
It's like Facebook on your birthday.
But it was a massive failure on my part.
Well, I thought Jeremy establishing the GoFundMe was a little much. But, yeah, we were all rooting for you. Joe Ostrowski, he'll be disappointed if he doesn't know. Joe and Sam. BetQL Daily host Joe Ostrowski after sports. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
I don't expect us to be big spenders in free agency or anything like that. We still have to manage this cap because we're not going to try and set this thing up to go into a year where we got to strip it all down while we got number 17. We want to give him every chance every single year to see if that team can contend for a title.
There is General Manager Brandon Beane. He spoke with media today for over an hour at his end-of-season press conference. He also offered up a number of injury updates. Cornerback Christian Benford still in concussion protocol. Wide receiver Amari Cooper was dealing with a wrist injury this year that could have required surgery. And quarterback Josh Allen, his hand injury, did not come up in his exit interview. Also speaking for over an hour today was head coach Sean McDermott. And during his press conference, he confirmed that special teams coordinator Matthew Smiley would be back with the team in 2025. If you missed any of these, including McDermott with Schopp and the Bulldog, you can find them on the Odyssey app or on our website, WGR550.com. Ravens kicker Justin Tucker has been accused of inappropriate sexual behavior by 6 massage therapists. This being reported by the Baltimore Banner. Tucker himself has released a statement calling the allegations against him unequivocally false. Eagles edge rusher Brandon Graham has had his 21-day practice window opened up as he looks to play in the Super Bowl next Sunday against the Chiefs, and Senior Bowl practices are wrapping up today. The game will be held on Saturday at 2:30. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 of the new Chevy from Paddock. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I don't love junior mints. I just don't hate them. I don't understand why they are treated like second-class candy.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Oh,
there's a
you don't
fantasy
understand why a
name.
candy that is basically toothpaste wrapped up in stale chocolate is treated like a second-class candy. All right, I get it. It's a good, valid question.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Is there a time to change? The 3 teams I've drafted this year, second-class candy is pretty good.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Who drafts 3 fantasy teams? Or should I say, who drafts only 3 fantasy teams? I mean...
Definitely not me.
In my
I only
defense...
draft 1. Or, 2. I did do 1 with you.
Yeah, you got roped into that.
It's all right.
Turns out it was great.
I'll be happily roped again if you're
Happily
generous
roped.
enough to offer me the opportunity.
We're already planning to.
All right.
And in my defense, as somebody that you've many times called out for just being an absolute sicko when it comes to fantasy football, I've only drafted 2 so far this year.
Oh, we're off to a great start.
For next year, yeah. Only 2. So, we're taking it slow.
What's going on? Did you get a life? Sorry.
Yes, let's say that. Come on down, O'Mary and Hampton. Right, Joe Ostrowski? Come on down. Welcome to the squad. Joe Ostrowski with us on the West Shore Hotline. BetQL Daily. You can hear Joe's show weekday mornings with Sam Paniatovich and also Sunday mornings with Jason Lockenfora. Joe, how are you?
I went so far where I was hosting a Sunday morning fantasy show, taking on too many teams, that I decided I'm out. I'm out on everything. I don't even have a team anymore. I helped my son with his, but now I'm just completely done because I just took on too much.
What was this show?
Oh, it was on the 6-7 Odyssey station in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantasy.
You had a fantasy show on Sundays?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, I did.
I love that. I'd love to have a fantasy show on Sundays. Good for you. But then it became too much, you're saying.
Careful. Yeah.
Right.
Take on 5, 6. Yeah, don't say that out loud. The bosses are in the hallway, apparently. So,
Thanks for listening, Joe.
I have, since we've brought it up here, I have begged almost for a podcast, a show. Just put me on. I'm ready. I want to do it. Yes. I'm doing 2 or 3 podcasts on almost a weekly basis as it is outside of the company. So, but because Odyssey doesn't seem, or am I wrong here? Like, there is no fantasy presence, really.
It's really changed with legalized betting, hasn't it?
Yeah. You guys
it
are
feels like the betting has lapped things a lot. It used to be all fantasy, all DFS. Yeah, and my show was at the height of DFS, so we would do a lot of that as well. And then now it's, really transitioned. You know why? Because Odyssey's making money on sports betting.
Yeah, they don't need it.
Go figure.
I've made that deduction myself. I'm not taking it too personally.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, in the end, again, in the AFC, it was Kansas City all along, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It certainly was. I got to say, I'm not trying to kiss your backside, but from catching what I have been able to this week, I've been quite pleased. I'd listened in a segment here, hour there. Like, they didn't even mention what, for some reason, people are assuming Bills fans are talking about nonstop with the referees. And I understand it being discussed because it was part of the storyline on Sunday, but it is not something that you guys have done at all. And there's been this silly narrative, oh, Bills fans crying, oh, Bills. No, they're not. That's not what this is from my standpoint. You guys can talk better on this than I can. It just seems like there are so many people that are anti-Chiefs, anybody but the Chiefs right now, anti-Brittany, anti-Jackson, anti-Kelsey, anti-Taylor. Like, they're the ones that seem to be like the cheating and all that stuff. It's not Bills fans.
I mean, it certainly is some, but yeah, I think we had a guy. Mike was out yesterday, and our Nate Geary filled in, and there was one caller brought it up, but tried to come at it from the angle, not so much like why aren't you guys talking about it, but don't you think it's noticeable how many voices there are, credible voices talking about it and drumming it up. And, the guy went on and on and on. And eventually I just said, there's so many voices because there's just so many people out there trying to get your attention. Like, that's the world we live in now. Like, everything becomes true and becomes a cause because this is, if there's 5 people shouting about it and 50 people join them on Twitter or wherever, then it becomes a chorus. And it's like everyone's talking about it. Like, I don't know. I said to the guy, basically, to me, it's a sinkhole. I don't have any interest in going into a sinkhole by choice. Sure, I think the calls were curious, but that there's some agenda or something, I don't know. I just can't ever tolerate. To me, I would get out of this business if I believed in any of that. I wouldn't be able to sit here I don't know about credibly, but like passionately, honestly talk about these events. If I thought it was wrestling or something, I just wouldn't be able to do it. So, it's partially for my own sanity, but I don't know, man. I just think it's like a lot of things today that just get spoken into existence and become true because that's the world we live in.
Yeah, sometimes you got to hold off. Twitter or whatever social media platform is not reality, and let's not give voice to the minority that is screaming and looking for likes. But aside, I just wanted to mention that. Aside from all that,
thank you.
No, I mean, it was Josh Allen struggling in the beginning. Look, bottom line is if you're going to go to Arrowhead and you're going to win the playoffs, we all know this, that you've got to bring your A++ game, and they did not do that. With their defense in the first half, this is nothing that you guys haven't discussed all week, but there were a lot of issues and there were a lot of points that we could go over, but for everybody screaming about this is unfair, that is unfair, this goes against them, it always does go against them in these key moments. Something that bettors, from my perspective, always take a look at is the luck. Some have talked about it with the Commanders and what they've done on 4th down, and at some point it's probably not luck. It is luck, falling on 5 fumbles. And that's what the Bills did in that game. So not everything was going against the Bills.
Yeah. To the ref point, I want to say that I'm not looking to shut it down, but there have been people who've called in on a lot of different things. And, often I would say that some of the other things are more interesting. So it's much the same. Everybody's talking, yet there is no Odyssey fantasy show. Joe Ostrowski on the Wester hotline. Yeah, I'm thinking about like prop stuff with next week in mind, and I know you're there, and I have just not had the appetite yet.
I get it.
It was Monday afternoon, sitting down to do this, and here comes the email from Bet Online about the anthem length and the color of the Gatorade, and just, man, I'm not ready for this yet. So, what looks good, Joe, if you don't mind?
You know what? You're actually not alone, believe it or not. And we still have 10 days, so it's okay. I think you've brought up this name before. Rufus Peabody, correct?
Yeah.
And we had him on the show today on BetQL Daily if you want to check out the podcast of it. And he's been a guy around Super Bowl time, and he'll probably do a lot of media next week. He's known as the prop guy. You go to him when you want to talk about Super Bowl props and process, and he's won a lot of money around this time of the year. And traditionally, back before we had legalization and all these sports books in so many states in the country, it was tonight is the big night. It was the Westgate Superbook. They would drop their packet this evening, and if you're a real bettor, you would stand in line at the Westgate tonight, and you get to the front of the line, and you were allowed to make 2 max bets. After that, you've got to go to the back. It was a whole event out in Las Vegas. And the game has just changed right now, and I'm sure you guys may have noticed that some props were out on Sunday night, Monday at a lot of these sports books. But my point with bringing Rufus up was that during our conversation today, he's like, guys, I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not trying to say that I don't like anything because I don't want to lose a number. I haven't bet anything. And his thought process is he bets on things not to happen. Right? He bets on unders. Mm-hmm. He bets no on the safety, no on a defensive touchdown, stuff like that. So he just waits. He's going to wait until next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and then he's going to come in on his unders. Then he's going to bet his no props and all that kind of stuff. His big hit a few years back, that Patriots-Rams Super Bowl, he bet on it was 400-1 then. On the Rams to score exactly 3 points, which you think of that McVay offense, that's impossible. That's never going to happen. He nailed it, had a massive ticket, so a lot of people go to him ever since. But I don't have as much as you would probably expect. I've looked at a few different props and some players that I do like. Goddard I find appealing. I don't know what Kelsey's going to do. But the Goddard is back to our conversation a week ago about the tight end position. Now, the difference is Goddard is likely to accumulate some yardage and possibly get into the end zone at better than 3-1 going up against the Chiefs there. But I was looking at over 2.5 rushing touchdowns for this game. It's a higher total game, which we can get into. But the passing yards versus rushing touchdowns, rather passing touchdowns versus rushing touchdowns, I found appealing because you have a guy in Hurts who's probably not going to have 2 or 3 passing touchdowns, but he could have a rushing touchdown or 2. And you've got Saquon and Hunt, and then Mahomes with a couple rushing touchdowns last week. That wouldn't surprise me if that were to.
The 2 quarterbacks combined for 5 rushing touchdowns on Sunday.
Crazy.
Yeah. 2.5 total is not just the quarterbacks either. That's the line.
Yes.
Oh,
Total rushing touchdowns in the game. Would it surprise anybody if Worthy had a rushing touchdown?
No.
Something like that.
No, I might sooner. Are there alternate lines for that? Like there are for a lot of things? Because I might get to like 3.5 or 4. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just saw the 2.5. I'm sure there will be.
Okay.
There will be alternates on everybody, but they're just slowly releasing stuff. Not even half the props that are going to be available are out there right now.
You know, the vibe, I guess, from Rufus, I know of him. I think of him as a golf bettor.
Yeah.
I know of him, and from you, is maybe part of this, is the game interesting? You know, like there's the chasing history aspect with Kansas City, I guess, but more often you hear about how people are sick of them. Is maybe the game not being as interesting as it could be, maybe that factors into a sense of apathy?
Yeah, I was bothered by the results on Sunday, but after a couple of days for me, and it's obviously different for you and your listeners, I am looking forward to the matchup. I am. I look at it and I think that the Eagles are the better team. But am I going to bet against Patrick Mahomes in this spot? That's where I keep coming back to. Like, we can come up with a storyline, okay, going up against the interior of that Kansas City offensive line. Jalen Carter can wreck a game. We've seen Super Bowls won in that manner. Or just, maybe Goddard has a big game because they can't stop the tight end. Or we trust the 2 defensive coordinators. Maybe it ends up being a lower scoring game, and who has the ball last in the very end. We can come up with the storyline. Of course, Saquon having the best running back season we've seen in quite some time, and lately the Chiefs aren't the best against the run. Of course, we saw what James Cook was able to do last week. So we can come up with the storyline. It's just hard to get there. The point spread has not budged at all. So is that lack of betting? Or is it they're at the right number? It's the Chiefs minus 1.5. We have seen movement on the total. Sunday night, there were some places that got it up to 50. Most of the week it's been 49.5. Now we're down to 48.5 at a lot of spots.
Wow. I mean, I get the the fatigue of the Chiefs and all that. Certainly, maybe I guess more than maybe the average person outside of Buffalo does. But this was a great game a couple years ago, right? Yeah. I mean, so I get all that. But I think we were talking earlier in our show, Joe, like, when are we done thinking about last Sunday's game, the AFC title loss for the Bills? I'm like, I think when I get through the weekend and we get, heading towards next Sunday, I think I'll be ready to watch this game. I mean, I'm not someone who would say I'm not going to watch it. I don't know who I'll be rooting for because I kind of really don't like either team much at all.
What do you hate about the Eagles?
Just Philadelphia in general. Okay. Big Dom. I don't know. They annoy me. It's probably some transitive thing involving the Philadelphia Flyers, honestly, from when I was 10 and they beat the Sabres for the Stanley Cup. I've never had a warm, fuzzy feeling for anything Philadelphia, I guess. But I think this game has the potential to be great.
I agree. I totally agree. And non-Bills fans I heard from, just neutral NFL fans, Sunday, they're like, nobody's going to care about the Super Bowl. Because people hate the Chiefs that much. Like, they're back, and however you think it happened, they are there, and you got to give them that respect. So, but yeah, you just another time. We still have 10 more days. By the time next week comes, everybody's going to have their long list of prop bets. Looking forward to the game.
What else are you into? We talk almost exclusively football with you. Baseball's coming, but there's so much else going on. Yeah. What's hot for you right now? Otherwise,
yeah, I'm slowly getting back into the NBA, paying more attention to college basketball because, after this, we know the NFL is king. So in my world, for my show with betting, second biggest event of the year is March Madness. So I've got to be on top of that for sure. So and then it gets right into we kind of think NFL's ending, everything's ending. No, it's just a transition period. So I love that time of the year as well, where opening day is around the corner. We get the Masters. Just had March Madness, so it always just continues.
I got a little bit of a jolt when you said the Masters right there. That's good. That's good. Yeah. We got to collaborate. Well, I'll say this on baseball futures.
Yes.
This year because I can't bet awards, and I just had the 2 Cy Young winners and won $0 US last year. You've got winning experience when it comes to that award in particular. So I'll play around with that this year if you want.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
of course.
Here's me, the guy that roped Joe into betting Jordan Love to win the MVP. Yeah, sure, Mike.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
We collaborate with you.
You're the guy I want to partner with. That's true.
Well, Joe, can I interest you in a Tage Thompson hat trick bet business plan?
So
did Sam tell you? I texted Sam. I texted Sam like from the concert I was at Tuesday night when I found out that Thompson had a hat trick, and I did not have the bet in, and I feel pretty bad.
Is this something you've been betting on a regular basis?
Yeah. Honestly, this year it's been less frequent than it was last year. Honestly, last year I think I bet it every game until he did it, and so I was down like $600 when I won $2,000. Right. Oh. This year it's been he's been off and injured a little bit, and the team, of course, is in last place, and so I'm not as into them as I normally am, and Tuesday night was just very easy for me to forego it because I haven't won in a while, not just on that, but on anything, and I knew I had no money in there, and I was like, you know what? I'll wait. We'll see how I feel on Friday when they host Nashville. And sure enough, there's my night, and, I don't know. I never even looked at what they were in the game, but I'm guessing they were an underdog.
No,
they weren't.
They were like a slight favorite or even.
Then I would have gone -1.5, and I'll bet that was juicy. The Sabres -1.5. They are favored. So I would have done that with the Thompson thing. And
I had it in my notes to mention to you.
It would have paid huge.
That's another way you could have gotten there, too, if I had it written down to mention that they were even money against Boston.
Yeah.
Which would be like, I think I'd like that then.
Yeah.
Maybe a good sign.
What are the odds usually on that for him?
Depending on, of course, whether they're favored or I'm doing the money line, which is pretty modest, but it's always better than 100 to 1. Joe.
He pairs it with the team.
I pair it with the team result. So if they're minus 1.5 and it's plus 180 or something, paired with Thompson, that's plus 8,000 or 7,500. You put that together and it's big.
I've certainly been there, and my comp would be if you bet golf on a regular basis, you get a group of guys. They're just your guys, and you think they're going to break through at some point, especially if you're getting better numbers. That is the worst feeling. If one particular week you don't bet one of your guys, and then they win an outright, and it's like 50 or 60 to 1 or something like that. Yeah, I understand that.
All right, Joe.
So now I don't know what to do because I feel like I'll really be chasing it if I start the machine back up again, right? Because he got the hat trick. He only had the one last year, as it turned out. And so he's got it. And, I don't know.
No, that's right. You are stymied.
I think I should stop. But at the same time, I'm going to look Friday. And because he just had a hat trick, I wonder if it'll be juiced even more. And I'm going to just fall into a trap.
Well, the trend says he's only good for one a year.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? You're going to bet a hat trick the rest of his career every game?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, but I think I'll stop for this year. I think I'm just going to I lost. That's it. I blew it. But next year I'll start the machine up again because it's 2 years. If I would have stayed with it this year, I would have been up $1,500.
He is a 40-goal scorer. It isn't crazy that he would have another one, but yeah, you're going to be upset either way.
Yeah.
After that, you're going to be upset either way. That's what you signed up for.
Yes.
Right? I mean, eventually you're going to stop, and then he's going to do it, and you're going to think about the money you didn't win.
And that happened Tuesday.
And that happened.
Yep.
Joe, thank you. Looking forward to talking again next week. We will not be at the Super Bowl, sadly, but we'll certainly be talking about it.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll have a long list of props for you Thursday and Friday.
Let's go.
Good deal. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, guys.
Joe Ostrowski, BetQL Daily, and on Sunday mornings with Jason Lockenfora previewing the NFL. His BetQL Daily co-host, Sam Panayotovich, will join us tomorrow at 3:30. We'll also talk some Senior Bowl tomorrow with Theo Greminger, one of my fantasy guys. He has been in Mobile. He'll be home by tomorrow. He might be already. Not that that matters, but it is that time of year. No, I couldn't. I was going to say I could give you a little on a couple of guys. Not really. It'd be very little. But I did, for fantasy purposes, do some research on the skill position guys. It's a running back year.
Yeah.
And what will that mean in the draft? What it might mean to the Bills is maybe nothing. Because I don't think they need a running back at all.
I was looking at the receiver list yesterday. The Oregon guy.
There's another Oregon guy.
There's an Oregon guy, Tez Walker. A couple of Texas guys again, like last year. So we've got a resource here in Zach on that. I'm ready. I'm gonna be getting there.
Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden.
There you go.
See?
A couple of Idaho State guys. Paul Hamilton's all excited about that.
Iowa State, I meant. Yeah. What did I say? Idaho? Jeez, wow. Yeah. I love an Idaho State guy, but I think Iowa State.
Iowa State is what I wanted, yes. Thank you.
Are we talking about Genty on our show this year?
I don't think they'll get a look at him.
Should we trade up for Genty?
Have
you seen him, Bulldog? Have you seen him?
This show needs to be shut down right
Have
now.
you seen him? You haven't seen him, obviously. Have you just completely dismissing the possibility, the idea? Not the possibility, the idea. Oh, how great would this guy be in this offense? There it is, 803-0550. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Sal will join us in just over an hour. If you heard Sean McDermott or Brandon Bean, you want to talk about anything you took away from their comments, feel free to join us with that. McDermott was on our show last hour as well, and you can find that at the Odyssey app if you missed it. We'll be right back. This is WGR.
Buffalo Bills general manager Brandon Beane and head coach Sean McDermott both spoke with the media. Beane, when speaking, did offer a bit of an injury update on a number of players. Cornerback Christian Benford still in concussion protocol. Wide receiver Amari Cooper dealt with a wrist injury that could have required surgery. And quarterback Josh Allen, his hand injury did not come up in his exit interviews, while McDermott, when he was speaking with the media, did confirm that special teams coordinator Matthew Smiley would be back with the team in 2025. If you missed any of these, including McDermott with Schopp and the Bulldog, you can find those on the Odyssey app or on our website, WGR550.com. And we'll get more on what was said by both gentlemen when Sal Capaccio joins the show at 5:30. Around the NFL, Ravens kicker Justin Tucker has been accused of inappropriate sexual behavior by 6 massage therapists. This was originally reported by the Baltimore Banner. Tucker himself has released a statement calling the allegations against him unequivocally false. And then the Senior Bowl, their practices are wrapping up today, with the game being held on Saturday at 2:30. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Kickoff 2025 in the new Chevy from Paddock. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
My only thing I would say, I wish he had finished the season stronger, but we had honest, direct conversations with Keon. He's a young player. We got to remember he's 21 years old. Some of the guys that get drafted in the first round are 24, 25, things like that. So let's give him a little grace here. His career will not be defined by one season, and he did some good things. He has a skill set that we think will play well in this offense.
Brandon Beane on Keon Coleman. A lot of today is what you'd expect from both Beane and Sean McDermott, where you play the opposite game. Right? With due respect.
How's that work?
Imagine Beane saying, the opposite of that about Coleman.
Yeah.
He never would.
We're completely demoralized. I can't believe I let the Chiefs get Xavier Worthy.
This should define his career.
Right?
Of course, they would never say that. And Coleman will get at any chance that he could get to hit.
Yeah.
But I don't know. To me, it was a little bit just okay. The idea of Coleman at the time of the pick. Just okay, right? Like,
I didn't love it. Yeah, I think at this time last year I loved the idea of him, and then the more we sunk into the whole thing, I'm not sure this is what I'm looking for this Bills offense. But they ended up going there, and I thought it was pretty promising. I think it does. Whether it's exactly why he didn't really produce in the last games after he came back from the injury, it could be. I think Beane more so. I don't know how much McDermott talked about Coleman at all. I don't think the part we heard of it that it came up, but he said he's never really had to battle through injury, and maybe he needed to learn how to do that. He didn't say that definitively, so I don't want to take that as gospel, but I thought what Beane said about him, despite this opposite game crack. I thought Coleman was starting to look like someone who was going to be maybe on a Rashee Rice light type diet. As the year goes on, he's getting better and more impactful, and then the injury happened, and then he was pretty much lost at sea. He never really was impactful again after he got hurt.
Well, what do we want?
Another guy.
What kind of guy? Well, you're talking about the rookies before. You named some rookies.
Tez Johnson is the guy that I meant to say earlier, and I said Tez Walker, and you corrected me during the break. He was a pick last year.
Yes, Ravens.
So, yeah. But Tez Johnson he's little. He's maybe like Xavier Worthy last year. He's super fast. He's 5'10", and he's listed, at least at what I'm looking at 165. So, I don't know. You can maybe shave some pounds off of that, I suppose. He's slight. But he's wicked fast and shifty, and that I'm here for that. He's also not, at least the ranking I'm looking at now. We'll see. He's at the Senior Bowl, and we got the whole process to go through. But our buddies at CBS Sports, and this isn't exactly Chris Trapasso's rankings himself. His name's not on the header of it, but they've got him listed right now. Where'd he go? I had him a second ago.
Tez Johnson,
receiver number 16.
Tez.
So
I got into a couple of wide receiver 16-ish prospects last year. Javon Baker.
Sure. So that's, that
didn't catch a pass.
That piqued my interest. Like, his name came up in here. I think Nate mentioned him yesterday, and I saw some stuff on Twitter, that I don't think I saw because Nate mentioned his name in the presence of my devices. I think it just showed up on my feed because I follow people who are at the Senior Bowl.
All right. Can't be sure.
And they're like, hey, this is the guy Nate mentioned. Let me, so I started looking around, and that's how I know he's the 166th rated prospect in the draft at this point and 16th overall rated receiver.
Maybe it's a question for Theo tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe.
Free agency, though,
looks terrible.
Kind of.
I think. T. Higgins is really nice, but I don't know. That's going to be, top of market contract for sure wherever he goes.
Do you disagree with this? I would be shocked if they signed Cooper back. And I think I'd be shocked if they didn't sign Hollins back. Like, I fully expect Hollins is on the team, Cooper isn't. It's hard to know what the players want.
Yeah. I'm pretty close to that. The only caveat I would add is that it's funny, like Cooper not producing that could sour you on the idea entirely anyway, and maybe would sour the Bills on the idea entirely. But if it keeps the price down, then that's the only reason I wouldn't rule it out, is because if what he wants or expects to be out there for him in free agency isn't, and there's something modest to be done, then I think I would consider it. Because price point is always going to matter to this team. They're going to be wrestling with the cap to try to find ways to make it work. But at this point, if I were them, I would want to aspire to something different in the hope that it will be better. Because, if we're talking about a rookie, whether it's, a third or fourth round rookie or something higher than that, you're still sort of rolling the dice there. And yes, you're doing that to an extent with any free agent too, but you at least have a body of work to look at. So I would want to replace Cooper with something more dynamic if I can, but that might be a heavy lift, and therefore if the price point is right, I wouldn't rule him out. I agree with you 100% on Hollins, unless the opposite happens with Hollins, and he gets to the marketplace, and someone goes, boy, I really love the impact you had on that Bills receiver room, and you do all the grunt work, and boy, you caught a couple of nice passes in the AFC title game. Come on over here for 3 years for $30 million or something. Like, I want no part of that.
That would be incredible.
That would be incredible.
He made 2.6. I would guess the Bills would want to do better than that for him. 1 year, $4 million, something like that.
5, yeah, okay.
4 to 5 would be my guess. And I doubt he has that much interest league-wide. But he was everybody's favorite, and he led them in touchdown passes on a team that went 13-4. Some receptions, touchdown receptions.
Yeah.
Zach is with us. Hi, Zach.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Chris. Yeah, you know what, Mike, I once the season ended, I really felt kind of strongly, I know this is like 4 days ago, granted, that they wouldn't keep Cooper. And I've kind of gotten myself to thinking that I think there's actually a pretty good chance that they will. And, he was seemingly, I guess, could have had surgery on his wrist, now we've learned today. And I could see them getting themselves to thinking, if we can just get a full offseason with Cooper in the offense and working with Josh, and, I don't think he was exactly, otherworldly in the offense, but he made some nice catches on the boundary for sure. He didn't have any other big games outside of that LA game, but I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them to bring him back again. They're not going to pay him top dollar, but I don't know who else is going to.
Right. That's the question. What's the marketplace look like for him? Because if it's much north of $20 million on a 3-year deal, say, and that's even rich for me right now with what he meant to this offense. But if it gets north of that, I want no part of it. But if it's around there, like, I could see them going, right, yeah, he's been a number one. He's not that far removed from being productive, and another year in the system and yada, yada. That's why I said I'm not ruling it out. It really depends on what is out there for him.
What are you saying you would pay him?
I said if it gets north of like 3 years, $20 million a year, I'm out.
But you would do that?
I might swallow hard and do that, yeah.
I was just concerned. I appreciate that he had a wrist injury, but he just looked so slow. And he's 30. He'll be 31 by kickoff next year. Good question. If there's a market for him, you're going to have needy teams, and it's not a strong group. So there might be.
Yep.
I mean, he outranks most of this list based on his career. But he's been on 4 teams. Who knows what he's thinking? I just wouldn't expect the Bills to be the high bidder. And I didn't feel like it was that didn't really work that well for either party, I might think. But again, just trying to get in his head, and it's not something I can do.
Yeah, the Bills will be one of those needy teams to me. I think. I don't know how they'll perceive themselves. I would perceive them as needing a guy. They needed to go make that trade in the first place to get him in here once the season started. And that, to me, tells me they were aware that they needed something more. So to just go forward with what they have doesn't seem like a real solid plan to me. I mean, they tried that last year and had to pivot. So it all comes down to cost on him. And I know, like, that contract sounds maybe absurd, but for receivers, like, it's not that crazy.
Jeff is next. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Mike. Hi, Chris. How you doing? I'm still putting Fireball in my coffee. I'm depressed still. Oh, well. Okay. Here's my wish list.
Well, stay safe.
How about T. Higgins, free agency? Can we afford him? And draft, I want a safety, a corner, and an edge rusher. What do you think?
I think you probably can't. I shouldn't say you can't afford. I mean, you find your way to a lot of things that you don't think you can do. I'd be blown away if they chase T. Higgins. I don't love the player at the price point he's going to be at, for one thing. I mean, I like him. I think he's been a really good number 2 receiver, but he's about to be paid like a number 1. And that's always a little scary to me, whether he can really be that guy without Jamar Chase riding around with him, I think is a question you'd want to ask. You can believe in his skill set and his talent. He's been kind of brittle. That's a scary investment to me. Again, at the top dollar price point.
No way would the Bills end up with T. Higgins, I think, for your reasons. The success they had on offense without, a quote wide receiver 1, and he's the best idea. Somebody's going to pay him massively if he gets, out of Cincinnati, which he probably will. Like, somebody is going to pay him. Needy teams. The Bills might be one, but there are needier teams.
With more money to spend.
With more money, and that's what's going to happen with Higgins, I bet. Thanks, Jeff. Getting connected with fans brought to you by Northtown Kia, Western New York's #1 Kia dealer. Shop online at northtownkia.com. We can't resist our wide receiver chats, can we? We just cannot, or maybe just me, but you seem fine. You seem fine with it.
Dude, the first thing I went to at the draft pages at CBSSports.com is the wide receivers.
You started it.
I didn't care about the running back rankings.
I brought up running backs.
Yeah, the hell
and
with
you're
you.
like, what do you mean?
Get out of here.
Genty? Come on. Good. Sal at 5:30. Lines open. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog. WGR. Yes, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, thanks for listening and watching. Sal coming up at 5:30 today. All times are Eastern. 803-0550. Kevin is next. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Mike, Chris. Love the show. I didn't think I'd be listening to any Buffalo media this week, but you guys have made it more than tolerable, so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Want to bring a couple things. Love Tez Johnson's got a very cool story, too. I watched some Oregon games this year, and he's got a very cool story, and grew up with a family, and yeah, it's pretty cool if you look into him. But, I'm just not that confident the Bills would actually know what to do with him, particularly. Like, they have Samuel and Shakir, and, with the game on the line, they're resorting to a Cooper screen and a Ty Johnson swing. Obviously the fourth down was Concade. But, I just don't know they know what to do with him. McDermott is very defense. Meanwhile, Reed has Worthy and Hollywood Brown, running more or less wide open in the middle of the open field. So
and Juju,
just more a question. Yeah, that too. They schemed Juju open of all people, like wide open.
Yep,
so
yep.
They're resorting to screens and QB sneaks, and just Brady needs to figure out how to use these kind of dynamic, high-speed players. And he hasn't shown that yet, and I guess Dorsey didn't either. But that's one to hear your thoughts on that.
Good point.
Yeah, I get the concern. I'm gonna want. I heard the same thing not from Kevin, but from plenty of people last year about Xavier Worthy, because that was my draft crush eventually last year. Like, as we got closer to the draft, that was the idea I liked the most. And it's like they won't even know how to use him. Okay, can I just get a guy like that on the team and have it be proven that they don't know how to use him before we just throw the idea out? I need speed. This team is not fast. It has not been fast this entire time. So let's try that on. Maybe they don't even know what they're missing because they haven't had it. Let's go get it. I mean, I understand they're not targeting it. That might tell you all you need to know about how they feel about how important it is. But man, to me, it's still lacking. And I get the Juju point, scheming him open. I don't even know if this was on one of the completions, but I saw a cut up of a rep with Elam on Schuster. It is not possible to have a professional football player have a worse looking rep than Elam had on one of these against Schuster. Like, he ran at him and then turned towards the middle of the field, and Elam looked like he was on roller skates and fell and stumped. It was unbelievable. I mean, footing, anybody can slip. It's just one of the worst looking reps you'll ever see in your life. I don't even know if Juju got the ball on the play, but he was all alone running across the middle of the field because Elam never caught up. I mean, he was 20 yards off him by the time he got up.
Yeah, their defense got cooked in a playoff game against Kansas City again. That's the bottom line, I think. I can appreciate, like last year, the effect that injuries have, but how can you not expect to have a couple guys hurt in January? Like, that's just going to be weird if it doesn't happen. And, Kansas City was healthy, too. Bills were mostly healthy. Juju's on this list if you want to talk about him. You don't.
I definitely
and I don't.
No.
But free agent to be. Yeah, I mean, just that guy was so done when he played for New England. Physically, like his knees, it just seemed just completely done. But Kansas City makes it work. Kareem Hunt, out of the league.
Yep.
But kind of a force against the Bills. And other games here and there, but not good. Thanks for the call, Kevin. We'll talk some more after the update. This is WGR. When it's time to stock up on wine, champagne, spirits, there's one place to go. Outlet Liquor, George Urban Boulevard in Depew, and online at outletliquor.com, your place to buy a case. Still rocking the bottle bundle deals. Big on savings, bigger on selection. Any wine or champagne in the store priced at $13.99 or less. $2 off each bottle when you buy at least 3. Buy 3 bottles, save $6. Grab 6 bottles, save $12. Fill a 12-bottle case, save $24. The best part, you can mix and match from hundreds of wines and create your own sale or case. So whenever you're planning a party, prepping for a game, stocking up for anything, head to Outlet Liquor. And while you're there, don't miss Eric Wood's exclusive Woodford Reserve Barrel Pick. Hand-selected, bottled, and available exclusively at Outlet Liquor. Grab one while supplies last. Outlet Liquor in Depew, what's your outlet?
I don't expect us to be big spenders in free agency or anything like that. We still have to manage this cap because we're not going to try and set this thing up to go into a year where we got to strip it all down while we got number 17. We want to give him every chance every single year to see if that team can contend for a title.
That is Bills general manager Brandon Beane. He spoke with the media for over an hour today at his end-of-season press conference. Beane also offered up a number of injury updates. Cornerback Christian Benford still in concussion protocol. Wide receiver Amari Cooper was dealing with a wrist injury this season that could have required surgery. And quarterback Josh Allen's hand injury did not come up in his exit interviews. Head coach Sean McDermott also spoke with the media today, also for almost an hour, and confirmed that special teams coordinator Matthew Smiley will be back with the team in 2025. And if you missed any of these, including McDermott sitting down with Schopp and the Bulldog, you can find them on the Odyssey app or on our website, WGR550.com. We'll get more on the Bills when Sal Capaccio joins the show at 5:30. Around the league, Ravens kicker Justin Tucker has been accused of inappropriate sexual behavior by 6 massage therapists, this being initially reported by the Baltimore Banner. Tucker himself has released a statement calling the allegations against him unequivocally false. Eagles edge rusher Brandon Graham has had his 21-day practice window opened as he looks to play in the Super Bowl next Sunday against the Chiefs. And Senior Bowl practices wrapped up today with the game being held on Saturday at 2:30. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 of the new Chevy from Paddock. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
They have this Panther sound effect that is just the cheesiest, stupidest sounding thing. Big voice guy going, Panther goal scored by Sam Reinhart.
Where'd you get that thing? I trapped it. Been keeping it in my bathroom at the motel, feeding it old pizza.
It's Mike Schopp.
If you're calm, that wondrous big cat will be calm too. But if you're scared, that beautiful death machine will do what God made it to do. Namely, eat you with a smile on its face.
And the Bulldog. On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Little by little, moving into off-season mode here, sadly. Not that the off-season can't be really fun to talk about. I kind of love it, but it's not. Some would say it's not the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I wouldn't even want to say love-hate, because I don't hate the off-season. I just don't love it as much as I, love going to New Orleans and eating gumbo.
Oh. Gumbo again. Welcome back to the show, Gumbo.
Yeah.
Let's get back to your calls, 803-0550. We've been talking, wish list kind of stuff most recently about the Bills offseason, what we want for them to do on the occasion of the GM speaking and the head coach earlier today. Mike is next. Hi, Mike.
Good afternoon, guys. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Last couple of days I've heard from, various shows, not saying your guys, but in the national media too, is about our offense. I think we're fine. We have an MVP finalist on the offense side of the football. We have the OC, offensive coordinator finalist on that side. I think our focus should be, I would love them to take all defensive players this draft. I mean, the last couple of years has been our defense issue. And then the last point I want to make is I think there's one guy in Buffalo that's happy. That's Kevin Adams, because all we're talking about the Bills. We should get on this train, fire Kevin Adams. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mike. What did he say? He cut out. Happy that they lost?
I guess, yeah. I mean, sure. We're going over. We're talking about the Bills right now. We still would be talking about the Bills if they'd won, except we'd all be hugging each other while we were doing it. So, you'd have the same result here. It would have staved off hockey season for a while.
Here is Mark next. Hi, Mark.
Hi, guys. Appreciate the conversation. Trades in the offseason are always exciting, even though it sounds like from what, the GM said earlier today that they're not going to be very active, but you never know.
He always says that. He always says that. Yeah. So that's not to say I think they're going to go bananas or anything, but he said that before they signed Von Miller to whatever that was, $120 million contract. So, grain of salt.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. And I'm driving around with my son Max, and we were sitting here talking about wide receivers, And T. Higgins, neither one of us thinks is coming our way. And then Debo was like last year's, and maybe he comes up next year, but we sort of went past that. We tried to get creative, and we were thinking DK. Seattle's in a weird spot where they have to do some catch-up. JSN is in a spot where he's, a number one receiver that can, if he hasn't already, take over that role there. And DK is, he's still young-ish. I think he had an extension. I know we did a quick search while we were driving around, and it looked like $20 million dead cap to Seattle. His base salary is $18 million, but obviously there's more to it than the base. But and Chat GPT said that a first and a third this year, and then additional in future years. So I was like, would you guys do a first and a third this year and say like a second next year for DK?
Schopp GPT probably wouldn't. I would say. I will say no. I'm just hearing about it, this idea for the first time. It seems like the kind of player that you could get for a 1. It's what the Eagles did for A.J. Brown. That was a 1. I don't know what Seattle would want to do here. Do they have to be in a transition mode or anything like that? 1 year left for Metcalf. I guess it's possible. I think the caller's right on Smith and Jigba. Lockett got old this year. New offensive coordinator. I don't know. They've got some good pieces. Like, I wouldn't – if we were the Seahawks, I wouldn't want to be moving on, I think.
I don't think I would either. I like Jackson Smith and Jigba, but isn't he mostly a slot guy? Like, Metcalf is an outside. I'm not saying, like, he can't be your leading receiver as a slot guy, but that's like having Khalil Shakir as your number one receiver. Like, that's part of the reason you want DK Metcalf on the Bills. I think you need somebody outside. So, I'm not sure it really lines up. I don't know where they are. I mean, they're into year 2 with a new coach from last year. Gino is still gonna be their guy, I would assume. So it would be. I think the timing would be weird for them to divest themselves of this player. Why could it happen? They're not going to re-sign him at his age to a big contract. They like Njigba. They're going to want to invest in him. They may want to replace Metcalf with a younger guy, a cheaper guy. And I think that's what the Bills, I think, probably are going to be bargain hunting here to some extent. And this is a big ticket item. And I'd be surprised if they went that route. But, I love the player. I mean, I'd love to see him in a Bills uniform. I just don't know it's realistic myself.
I'm looking up A.J. Brown because I felt I was right, but I wasn't sure. That was a 1 and a 3. Not just a 1.
Maybe that's why
I think that could be right.
That was.
That could be right.
Spit that result out.
That could be right.
Yeah.
And the Bills don't have a 3
yeah.
either, by the way.
No, that's right. Cooper was their 3.
Not to make it so specific.
Yeah. And just so you know, like any idea, it's like we're going to be open. We're going to be open. All right. Because what we've learned here, I think, over the last few years, I mean, last year it did not happen at all. Like the big name receiver looking for a contract never really got moved last offseason. We spent all offseason thinking about Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams and that A.J. Brown that offseason. Like, well, teams are starting to figure out that they, want to pivot off of this, at a certain time in their run. So that could happen again this year just because it didn't happen at all last year. So, to me, no idea is too pie in the sky if it fits. Like, don't call us about Justin Jefferson, okay? Like, that's not going to happen.
Why not? Don't you like him?
I
think he's good.
I don't trust a receiver wearing number 18. No, I have no idea. I just don't think that's, But Metcalf, I already saw him talking about trade possibilities. Don't want to go to New England. But it felt more what
Metcalf said something?
Yeah. His quote on some podcast was more like not so much where the state of the franchise is like. It's not like he doesn't want to live in New England. Is how I read it. So I don't know what to make of that. But there's stuff. He was a part of this last year, Metcalf. So another year older, it wouldn't be. It's not weird to bring him up at all.
I don't think it is either. I think you feel differently. Maybe a little bit, at least. I think the Bills probably, starting with McDermott, and I would think Bean as well, really love how the season went offensively. They did end up in a place, and McDermott said this himself today. I asked him about it when he was on with us a couple hours ago, where they were not dangerous down the field. And that, was there. But they still scored like crazy. The Cook season, and whatever has been said about their lack of dangerous weapons, dangerous players, offensively, they were great. I mean, that's how you have to put it. They didn't turn the ball over. They set a franchise record in scoring. And I think what we've had play out the last couple of years is, I think, McDermott getting an offense the way he wants it. And it's like a lot of coaches probably, where you're not turning the ball over, you're playing a very safe game, and it's easy to win a lot when you do that. And I think they would think how they played, to say the least, contributed to that. So where that leaves me is I doubt they're having conversations about players like DK Metcalf or T. Higgins or a new wide receiver one where they would sort of backpedal on everything they said in a season that went really well. Now, you make the point that they did trade for Cooper within that.
Right.
And that's correct. And that opens the door to some possibility that they would want Amari Cooper himself or someone better to fit with Shakir, Samuel, Concade, maybe Knox, maybe Hollins.
Coleman, you left out.
And Coleman. I left out Coleman. He's an afterthought to me. But Coleman should have been maybe first on that. After Shakir, whatever. He should be high on that list.
Yep.
So, I don't know. Like, the free agency doesn't have a lot to offer. I think they'll want Hollins back. I would expect that to happen, not knowing how the parties feel, but it just feels right to me. And who else? It might be what last year felt like during the offseason, where a lot of these names on the list were MVS, right? Just you're throwing darts. Claypool last year and Hamler, these guys where you're hoping to find somebody that can fit, but not as your wide receiver one. And that's where maybe we're on a different page from each other a little bit.
Yeah. That's part of the reason, everything you just said is part of the reason why I wouldn't rule out Cooper being back, really dependent on price point. Because I think that they demonstrated that they knew they needed more. So they went and acquired it. So that doesn't mean to me, I'm listening to any idea receiver-wise that, I think makes sense. That doesn't mean I think they're going to do it. I don't think they would trade for DK Metcalf at that money. I think they might feel pretty comfortable that they don't need to pay a receiver that money. Like the point you're making. To me, there's a mix of the two things. Like, Cooper fit financially really well. He had no money left. Credit to the Browns for biting that off and making that work. I mean, it drove the price of acquiring him up, so you had to give up a third to make it happen, but it was palatable financially. And if it still is palatable in free agency, then that might make sense. They already know him. But the big game hunting, like I'm not going to be as eager, despite what I said, any name you want to bring me, but I am not going to be sitting here expecting them to make the Brandon Ayuk trade that they never made last year. I think because of how the season went. So I got to go shop in a different aisle. Better than MVS, Chase Claypool, which is open box clearance, scratch and dent. It's even worse than that, I think, those type of guys. I'm not saying don't try any of that, but that can't be your entire plan. They did already re-sign Hamler to a futures contract, so he's back for another go-round on the practice squad, I suppose. But somewhere in between the big guy and the really that guy still plays? Somewhere in between there. That's a pretty wide swath. And have to find some way to work, or it's a draft pick. And you just feel like if you keep Hollins and you want to count on Coleman to emerge a little bit more, Samuel healthy, whatever you can talk yourself into, we're going to draft a guy with a skill set like I'm talking about, speedy guy, a worthy-esque player who's worthy of the draft pick. Cute. And hope that as the year goes on, he gets a hold of things and sort of emerges. Not unlike how Xavier Worthy did this year with Kansas City.
Late second at the earliest, though.
Right. I don't think they would. That's why when I looked at the rankings after hearing Tez Johnson's name, I was like, okay, he's receiver 16 right now. We'll see how much that changes. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great to me.
Here's Jim next. Hi, Jim.
Hey, guys. I get we need some defensive help, but look at how well Josh played with, I don't know, like a B-side for you, Bulldogs, a B-side receivers that we have. That's how I look at them.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to know, how good could Josh be if he had legitimate horses? And I know you can't have three of them, but this is where all those years of not drafting a wide receiver early, where now we've got our number one guy, who's Keon. He's just getting done with his rookie year, but he's got decent guys. But I want to know how good Josh can be if you give him, I don't know, kind of like what we did before when it was
Diggs and Beasley and John Brown
and all that.
Yeah,
like they were awesome. And I get it. We're a good team. I get it. I don't want to be good. I want to be great. I want teams that spend so much money on, like Kansas City, on their defense. Okay, we're going to come out and have our offense because we've already put up 30 points a game with these guys. Let's go get somebody like a DK Metcalf or a T. Higgins and put somebody on the other side of him. So now Keon doesn't have to feel like he's the one that has to excel at a faster pace than anybody else, especially the way Concade is turning out. I don't get it. How do you have such an awesome freak show alien at quarterback, and yet you're putting him with guys they're good team guys. They're great at that. But I want guys that you really have to worry. Oh my God, we got to move somebody over here. We got to move another guy over on this side because they have too many weapons. Especially with James Cook right now.
Jim, I appreciate this. I wanted to ask him a question. Because how many more points a game do you want them to score? Like I hear you. I want right. I mean, they're the second highest scoring team in the league. That's the dilemma.
But we're not first. We're not first.
Oh, come on.
But listen, we just gave up 30 points to a team that hadn't scored 30 points all season, and it beat it.
I know. I'm just saying, like, realistically, you want to get this super team on the field, and what do you think you're going to do? Score 45 points a game? Like, this is not going to happen. It just the league does not work that way.
Let me put it this way. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I'm fine. Go ahead.
I just feel like we're getting by with guys that are good team players, good rope. Let me put it this way: the everybody eats slogan. How many weeks did we say, "Oh, everybody snacked"? Sometimes those guys don't. They're not the weight that you need with the. If Josh is a Ferrari, you're gonna put Kia tires on him.
I want more talent. I want more speed on the field. But to me, you sound like we're getting by. Getting by is scoring 22 points a game. Like, this team is not getting by on offense. They were the second highest scoring team in the league. They set a franchise record for points. They scored 30 rushing touchdowns and 30 receiving touchdowns. Like, they set records. That's a lot better than getting by. All that said, like, I don't need to get heated and be like yelling at you. I'm just. It sounds like you want too much. You want an all-star team, and that's just not realistic. I want more talent too, but just DK Metcalf and T. Higgins are not going to be on the same team.
No, that's probably right. Really compelling argument, though, Jim. And ultimately, the question is not what you or I or Bulldog wants; it's what we think they want. And take what Bulldog is saying and ask yourself if you think the Bills are pleased with it. They'd better be. They should be. No, they weren't first. Oh, my God. They scored 140 more points than the Chiefs did this year. Oh, great. Hang a banner. I mean, you have to – I am like you. It's sort of always gnawed at me this year that they did not have a great receiver and was asking the question all season if it would bite them. It's hard even for me to say that it did Sunday. They scored 29 points in the game and had the ball with a chance late. And was it not having that receiver that cost? I don't know that it was. Their defense got cooked. So I always want the receiver. I love it. But I don't expect the Bills to, in a salary cap world, think that they need it. I'd expect them to shop the kind of way they did last year. And probably they'll be good. There are at least 6 Bulldog former Bills in the free agent pool.
Of receivers?
At receiver, yeah. Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
Just, hear the names and ask yourself, is this likely? Would you want Diggs back?
I'm going to go probably not.
I would say the same. MVS?
Definitely not.
Definitely?
Yep.
Deontay Hardy is a former Bill.
Definitely not.
Zay Jones.
Absolutely not.
Really? Okay. Robert Woods. Be fun. Robert Woods. He's older.
How is he not? He's got to retire.
Personal choice. Jamison Crowder.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yes, right. Can I count DeAndre Hopkins? Oh, the Von Miller recruitment.
I don't think that
he had a podcast where he said he liked Buffalo.
No, he's even less of a Bill than Antonio Brown ever was.
He is less of a Bill than Antonio Brown is not on this list, but there's always Antonio Brown. And then, Cooper and Hollins, like current guys, are on this list too. I think that's everybody. Former Bills that are available in free agency or might be. Wide receivers. Sherfield. There's another one.
Oh, there you go.
You didn't like Sherfield?
No. No. He didn't get a longer commitment from Minnesota. I thought they loved him.
I'm looking at Mike Clay's list. This might be outdated. It's a couple of weeks old here.
Yeah, no, I think that's accurate.
What about Big Mike? Not a former Bill, but a player I've liked, Mike Williams.
He's like 50% less a bad idea than Chase Claypool was last offseason, I would say. Like it's a 50% better idea.
Better idea, yeah.
But still not good. I don't think.
You're very negative.
Yeah, I am. Just born that way.
Let's take a break. We'll have the update. Sal joins us next, going over some of what Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott said today. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here at WGR.
If you tell me next year, I'll sign up for it, be in the AFC Championship game, down 3 with 3 whatever to go in the game, and we got number 17, I'll sign up for that again.
That is Buffalo Bills general manager Brandon Beane. He spoke with the media for over an hour today at his end-of-season press conference. He also added a little bit of an injury update for the Bills. Cornerback Christian Benford still in concussion protocol. Wide receiver Amari Cooper was dealing with a wrist injury that could have required surgery, and then quarterback Josh Allen's hand injury did not come up in his exit interview. Head coach Sean McDermott also spoke with the media today, just under an hour, and he did confirm that special teams coordinator Matthew Smiley would be back with the team in 2025. And if you missed any of these, including McDermott also sitting down with Schopp and the Bulldog, you can find them up at our website, WGR550.com, or on the Odyssey app. And we'll get more on everything we heard today when Sal Capaccio joins the show next. Over in the NFL, Ravens kicker Justin Tucker has been accused of inappropriate sexual behavior by 6 massage therapists. This was originally reported by the Baltimore Banner. Tucker himself has now released a statement calling the allegations against him unequivocally false. And then in baseball, the Toronto Blue Jays have signed 3-time Cy Young winner Max Scherzer to a 1-year, $15.5 million deal. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Kickoff 2025 with the new Chevy from Paddock. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Welcome back. We got the golf on in here. Always count on Bulldog to remember on Thursdays to turn on the golf. And there's the same guy in that crane as last week. We saw this guy, this cameraman in this crane way up in the sky.
Yeah.
Just saw him again. They're at Pebble this week.
I hope that guy's getting paid appropriately.
No Josh Allen, though, this year?
No, I heard. Early in the week already, I had heard that he wasn't going to be going this year. So
Sal Capaccio with us on the West Her Hotline. I don't know that we found out anything today, but is Allen injured? What do you know or think you know, Sal, on whatever happened to him on Sunday?
He said on Monday when we spoke with him that he had to get his hand checked out by doctors. He had injured it during the game. I think it might have happened on one of the 2-point play where they tried with him and it didn't go well. I think it was that play particularly. But Brandon Beane said today that in his exit interview with Josh, that didn't come up. So my guess is he's fine. You know what I mean? Like he had some bumps and bruises, and he had a bit of an injury there during the game, and maybe was dealing with it, but nothing to be worried about, I guess.
Okay,
maybe just it's sore enough that he's not playing golf this week at Pebble Beach. That's just me guessing. I don't know.
Or the Pro Bowl,
right?
Skip that too.
Yeah, he's not playing the Pro Bowl either.
Well, so that is what it is. How about for you today overall, Sal, on Beane first, I guess, since he went first. What are one or two of the most important takeaways for you?
My biggest takeaway was what he said about Keon Coleman. I thought it was very interesting, and I don't remember Brandon Beane, and very rarely many GMs, kind of using that verbiage and literally saying that he was disappointed in kind of the play after turn from injury. Now, listen, he also made it known, hey, young player, never been through something like that. There's, to come back from that and the mental part and the physical part, all of it hand in hand. I'm paraphrasing, but this is what I got from him there. But I thought that was really interesting. He said that it wasn't as much of the physicality, and they had definitely talked about it in his exit interview. And I'm just envisioning how that went, which is basically like, hey, you got to be better than that when you come back and be ready to play and professional or whatever. I'm just guessing. Like that's an interesting conversation to me, to be a fly on the wall. But for him to use that language was very interesting to me.
Yeah, because you don't get a lot of that, do you, in these?
Right. It sounds like you think they might have, I don't know, is scolded too strong a word? Like it sounds like maybe they gave him, rightfully so, maybe a hard time.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that'd be a leap of me. That'd be conjecture, right? I really don't know. But they definitely had to talk about it, right? And again, it also could be, hey, we know you're young. You're going to learn here, right? Like we get it. Like we've had players go through ups and downs, young players, and I would guess it is true, that anybody who's ever had never had an injury, and I think Keon actually had talked about when he came back, he had never been hurt in his life like that. That's got to be something to really try to get over. But again, that was something that was very interesting for me. You guys talked about the Dalton Concade stuff, which I'd like to get into because you guys made a point about Dawson Knox, which I'm not on the same page as you on that. So I'd like to talk about that. But I did think it was interesting how he mentioned about Dalton Concade and needing to get physically stronger, and that will help his body, durability as well. And then, I think that just his overall message about, I guess I came out of it was therapeutic, I think, a lot of ways, guys, to be honest with you. Like, if you're a Bills fan and you hear the GM say, we're not going to slow down. We're going to keep swinging. We're not resetting. We're not rebuilding. We're right there. And it just fuels us to keep going more. You could have that, but you could also hear the tone of, man, we may have to make some changes here, and we're going to see. And that was maybe even last year you heard a little bit of that. Yeah. No, that wasn't the case this year. It was, hey, we're right there. Some plays didn't go our way. We are going to keep swinging is literally the words he said. I liked how you phrased a question, something that we talked about yesterday, how I said, by, on Monday I was still feeling pretty bad. Tuesday I woke up feeling like they're in way better shape this offseason than they were at this time last year. And I know you got into that with Bean, and I'm trying to remember if he concurred with that sort of general assessment. He did. He also said we won't be big spenders, but as you guys have pointed out, he's said that before. All the time, right? Right. Yeah, I think that last year where they were, and he kind of alluded to where the roster is now. He said the difference. This is interesting, and just something to note. He did say that there's not as many levers to again, paraphrasing, there's not as many levers to pull this year as there were last year to make some things happen, right? And they had those last year. Right, that's right. Right. Correct. But they kind of knew that, which is why they did what they did last year, right? They did last year. A lot of things they did last year was because they knew they wouldn't have that chance this year, if that makes sense. So they kind of gave themselves, they were a year ahead of the way I'm interpreting it. Hey, we had to get ahead of it because we knew this year we wouldn't be able to do those things. We didn't want to be in that position where we had to and we had no other option. So we kind of gave ourselves an opportunity. He also talked about Josh Allen, his contractual situation, because obviously Josh isn't necessarily paid in line with the other elite quarterbacks in the league. And he said there's going to be a time and place for that. And he says he has a very good relationship with Josh and, his reps, and they'll talk about those things as they go on.
Allen's cap number in 2026 is almost $64 million. This year it's 43. So might expect some sort of a restructure there. On Concade, Sal, since you brought that up, my inference was just to speculate on whether that could be a sign that they plan to move on from Knox. There would be dead cap money if they did that, but they would also be able to save several million. Thinking about, the idea that they want Concade to get bigger, but that's not a thought you would have shared?
No, because I don't know if you may have not have, heard these parts of it, but the one thing that really stood out was how much both Bean and McDermott really talked about Dawson Knox and how valuable he is to this team. I came out of that press conference going, Dawson Knox isn't going anywhere. They love having him on this team. And Sean even said, you don't know the things he does for us. People don't see it. He was even asked to give, an example of a player or two that I can't remember the exact question. It might have been Catherine Fitzgerald who asked, and I don't remember the exact way. And, a lot of times you don't get specific players, but McDermott went right to Dawson Knox for this one example of a player who does this or that. And I'll even say they need a guy like Dawson Knox after what you heard them say about Dalton Concade, right? That to me, that's part of the reason why Dawson Knox is still doing what he's doing for this team is because they need, from what they said, they want Dalton Concade to get bigger and stronger. They don't have that on the roster unless they have Dawson Knox to do that right now, right. And he's a big part of what they do. So I came out of it the exact opposite. I thought even if you would have asked me, and you're right, Mike. Look at the contract, right? There's definitely things that if you get out of it, there's money, blah blah blah. If you would have asked me a couple of weeks ago and say, yeah, I guess there's a chance. I don't know if they would. I'm totally out on that now because of what I heard them say about Dawson Knox. Yeah, I wish I had the thought to follow up on McDermott when I asked him about how both he and
Bean made the same point about Concade, putting on weight, getting bigger and stronger. Yes, the durability, he got banged up this year. Last year, I don't think he had any real injury problems, so it's not like you got a pattern here. He just had a rough year. I'm really wondering, what, they drafted him to be a certain type of player to complement Knox, and, my brain didn't do what Mike's did. I didn't think, Knox could be in trouble on the roster, but I just think asking Concade, it's a delicate balance. If you want him to be Cole Beasley in a tight end's body, I don't know. Yeah, get stronger, be more durable, sure, but there's a balance there. You don't want to lose the athleticism. That's what made him a first-round pick. That's why he was appealing to them in the first place. Best pass catcher in the draft. So I don't know. Where's the line there is something I'm kind of curious about.
For sure. I'll address that in 1 second. I do have the question. It was Catherine Fitzgerald. I looked. She wrote. She asked Sean McDermott if there were any players or coaches that exceeded expectations, and he immediately went to Dawson Knox. That was McDermott.
Okay.
And then what Bean said about him was, no one is more selfless. You need guys like Knox on a team to win a championship. People go to Dawson Knox. They believe in Dawson Knox. To me, those are things that are just screaming he's not going anywhere, right? He's a big part of the core of what we do here. So when it comes to Concade, I think there's a few things about this, stronger physically and all those kinds of things they talked about. He was banged up this year, there's no doubt. And Bean talked about how tough he is and he had to play through this stuff. And I think a lot of it was referencing more of, look, if he gets stronger and bigger, he'll be able to absorb a little bit more, right? Mm-hmm. His body will be able to take on more. He will be more durable. But to your point, which is right, on the field, you don't want to lose that. But I think what you want is a guy who can be the mismatch you envisioned, which if he's not getting bigger and stronger and he's not great at the point of attack or a threat to block, how much of a mismatch can he be? The whole point of drafting him at the time was we want to lead into 12 personnel. And if we have these two tight ends who can beat you both in the blocking game and the passing game, then you're going to have to really be in a bind when we play. Well, if you have a guy who's really not that because he's not giving you a threat as much as a physical player, then I think that takes a little bit of that away. So I agree with you. I don't think they want him to necessarily put his hand on the ground and be blocking all the time, but I think they would like to have a little bit more of a threat and the ability for him to be in those situations more on the field and to be more durable.
Better able to take punishment, it seems, too, that along those lines. Interestingly, Concade, with double the catches of Knox this year, exactly, 44-22, came in well below Knox in yards per reception. You think of Concade, the idea of him has been discussed here, is more down the field, but 10.2 ranks pretty low on the roster. Sal,
can I say, my issue has been, with the whole conversation, we had a really good debate in the media room today about Concade. And I said to a bunch of my colleagues, the guy had one of the most historic rookie seasons in NFL history for a tight end. I got pushback on that. But he had at the time he had the fourth most catches ever for a rookie tight end in 50-plus years of professional football. To me, that is a great rookie season. You would sign up for that anytime you take a tight end for your first-round pick. The issue, now some people disagreed. Well, it's not a high bar to clear, whatever. My issue is, when they drafted him, they had this plan. If you're going to draft a first-round tight end, then you are drafting him to be this really big focal point of your offense, like a Brock Bowers, like a Sam Laporta. That hasn't materialized. But I think part of that was Ken Dorsey was here. Now it's Joe Brady. But since you did invest that, and since you did feel that way about him, I think you do have to kind of have a bit of a different philosophy on he can't just be part of the everybody eats dinner plate. You know what I mean? I think he's got to be more than that.
Not a lot of time left here, Sal. One thing I thought was interesting from talking to McDermott today, asking him in essence, what did Kansas City do offensively Sunday that you didn't really expect? Kind of like that. We each asked questions along those lines. He did give an answer. Ultimately, he said they got the ball out fast, and so he had to pivot to man-to-man defense, and maybe that was something that they weren't really prepared for.
Well, yeah, and he pushed back on the word unprepared, right? When Bulldog said that,
right,
for sure. It was unexpected, I guess, right? I guess that was unexpected. I don't think you don't go unprepared because prepared is, okay, we'll go to man-to-man. But the Bills weren't equipped to do that. And especially after Christian Benford left the game. I asked him specifically today about Kyer Elam. I thought that was revealing too. Like I thought they were both. Listen, Bean went for an hour and 15. Sean went for an hour with us. I know he was on for 25 minutes with you guys. And he said they tried zone, they tried man. It just obviously didn't go their way with Kyer Elam on the field. But you're right. And I remember Greg Rousseau, maybe it was right after the game, also saying on top of what he said about the stuff they did that like right away, or AJ Panessa said first play they went RPO. And he knew, okay, right away, they're doing quick game today. Like, that's something they had to adjust and pivot to that maybe they weren't expecting. Doesn't mean they were unprepared. They were unexpecting, which means they had to go to something different, which they weren't as equipped for, and give the Kansas City Chiefs credit because they probably saw the Bills weren't as equipped to counter that.
All right, Sal, we'll let you go. Thanks for your time.
You got it, guys.
That's our dude, Sal Capaccio, on the Western Hotline. His appearances are always brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet?
Lines are open at 803-0550. Looking ahead to the offseason. Of course, we're already there, but also talking about Sunday a little more. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. This is WGR. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, welcome back. You can reach us at 803-0550. You can watch us now, Twitch, YouTube, search WGR, Facebook, or live, some collection of words like that. Can work, I'm told. And you can X as well, Schopp Talk, Bulldog WGR. Still working for you?
Still there, yep. Same handle on Blue Sky.
Oh, yeah? How's Blue Sky?
I haven't been over there in 3 weeks. I have the best of intentions. Like, I really want, whatever. I just want to be ready to pivot if it ever comes to that. Like, who knows when any of these things are going to actually detonate. So, but I have not. If people are out there that have been following me over there that were happy when I showed up there, I'm sorry. It's old habits die. It's hard to make new habits, and I just never. I shouldn't say never. But I just have not been regularly digging in there.
One of my favorite lines, I think, applies here. Roger Ebert, when he got an offer to work in New York, the late Roger Ebert worked in Chicago for many years. His friend in the documentary about him said that Roger said, "I don't want to learn new streets." Blue Sky sounds like all new streets. You know what?
Yeah.
And on the one podcast I do, ADP Chasing, I mentioned that line. And my one guy, Davis, is like, absolutely not, no new streets. And the other guy, Pat's like, what do you mean? How do you get better? How do you grow without new? You're too young for this.
Yep.
New streets.
Yep.
Go find some new streets. So that had me thinking.
Wow, this spiritually sounds connected to the windows are always open.
He never closed the windows. That's right.
Yeah.
Never do. Ralph Wilson, as told by Daryl Talley. All right, Frank is next. Hi, Frank.
Hi, guys. How you guys doing?
All right, Frank. Thanks for calling.
Hi, you're welcome. I was just wondering, do you guys think that Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott are kind of taking a little bit too much to blame for this playoff loss? Like, I get what the opposition are saying, but I also feel like some of the players that we had to fill in were just not fully equipped, or maybe they weren't mentally as prepared as the starters were. And I think a lot of it is falling too much on our coach and GM. I just wanted to hear what you guys think, and I'll hang up and listen. Thanks, guys.
All right. I don't hear that really.
I don't think it's disproportionate, at least not to my ears. I mean, I know there's always on the fringes. There's going to be stuff, and maybe it's even more than that in the case of McDermott and Bean too. Although to me they're one entity, so I don't really differentiate one from the other. We've had a few people this week like I think it's more Bean than McDermott. You think McDermott is sitting in the draft meetings or on draft day like blindfolded and handcuffed or something? Like it's his show. So, but no, I mean they're you need people to step in, and like why, specifically on Bean, but McDermott is in on this too. Like he's the coach. They drafted Kyer Elam in the first round, and yeah, it's great that you have a success story like Christian Benford 5 rounds later to show up and be like an all-pro caliber player here to buffer the fact that Elam has been a bust, all caps. But that's where you ended up. You ended up at Benford in concussion protocol, got cleared at the last minute, got on the plane, went to Kansas City and got hit, and that was that. And here's Elam. And that shines a not very complimentary light on their ability to develop him and find a way to make him work for them. And the pick itself, he just has not worked out. So I think they deserve that. Like if their depth let them down, it's not like they were to street free agents. Like they had a first-round pick to throw on the field when Benford got hurt, and he stumbled around like someone who'd never played football on at least one play. They own that, I think.
Interesting how from this game it seems Elam, Concade, Coleman, Rousseau, is that their last 4 first picks of drafts? And they've all taken their heat.
Epinesa, I think, is. Oh, no, he wasn't. He was. Go ahead. You're right. Yes.
Rousseau is after 2020.
Yep.
If it's not exactly right still, like these are 4 players who, if the caller is asking who's getting blamed, those, in terms of players, that's kind of your list. And again, like those are their premium picks. The defense is almost upside down with, who's to blame or who's stand out? When you think about Benford, not from Sunday exactly, but Benford or Bernard, guys.
Milano is a 5th-round pick.
Right, of course, yeah. So that's just something. And that's really part of – it doesn't always work like this, I know, but if I were the Bills in this moment, thinking about Concade and Coleman and the year that the team just had on offense, I'm fully turning back to them next season. I want it worked, A, and then B, it'd be nice if I didn't have to defend my first picks, right. Year after year. Bean is due for one this year, I'd say, but those two guys still, have a future here. 803-0550. I don't think Elam does. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog with lines open for you here on WGR.
Benford, still in concussion protocol, and wide receiver Amari Cooper, he was dealing with a wrist injury that could have required surgery. Sean McDermott also spoke with media today. He was just about under an hour and confirmed in that special teams coordinator Matthew Smiley would be back with the team in 2025. If you missed any of these, including McDermott with Schopp on the Bulldog earlier today, you can find them on the Odyssey app or on our website, WGR550.com. Ravens kicker Justin Tucker has been accused of inappropriate sexual behavior by 6 massage therapists. This was originally reported by the Baltimore Banner. Tucker has since released a statement calling the allegations against him unequivocally false, and former Stanford head coach David Shaw is joining the Lions coaching staff as the team's passing game coordinator. And then in baseball, the Toronto Blue Jays have signed 3-time Cy Young winner Max Scherzer to a 1-year, $15.5 million deal. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 of the new Chevy from Paddock. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp.
Last night at 12:30 in the morning, I ate a can of mushrooms. I did. Pieces and stems, if you're wondering. As opposed to buttons. It was pieces and stems, which will be my next year's fantasy football team name.
Pieces and stems.
Pieces and stems.
And the Bulldog.
I should be ashamed to admit this publicly, but whatever. How long have we been doing this? I'm a junkie. I can't be trusted.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Today marks, I suppose, the end, the official or unofficial end of the Bills campaign as Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott take our questions, and then that's it for a long time from the Bills after today. 803-0550 for your thoughts on what either or both had to say, if that's where your mind is. We're still bouncing back and forth from the game, the loss, to the draft and everything else.
It's not that long. When the Combine's late February, isn't it?
So a month?
Because free agency opens like pretty early March. I've seen the date. I don't have it memorized, but it's, the first 2 weeks of March, somewhere in there. So yeah, I think the Combine, so they both talk there. So it's not, 3 times a week like it's been here for a while, at least with McDermott and obviously the players. So yes, the point holds. Just, it won't be that long before, Sal's in Indianapolis, assuming he goes, because, he usually does do that because they talk there and there's news there. So
it is a month away.
All right.
A month from today, Thursday, February 27th.
All right.
That's specialists, defensive linemen, and linebackers, by the way.
I'll be interested in some defensive linemen.
Okay.
I don't think we have a train for it or anything. I'm not advocating that we commission the building of a second train.
No, it'd be more like a tank.
Sure, I suppose that's right.
I guess tank has its own connotations.
Tractor.
A tractor is better.
Defensive lineman tractor.
Yes.
Yes. Maybe just for fun. I think maybe I'll say, I don't know how to get the little emoji on my Twitter feed like Jer, but
he probably could tell you how to do that.
Defensive lineman tractor. One of my kids probably can tell me.
Here's John with us next. Hello, John.
Hey, guys. So after listening to both press conferences today, one thing that I just feel like kind of caught up on is and I just don't like it, is if you keep knocking on that door and doing the right things, it will eventually break down. I mean, say that to Marv Levy. I mean, I just thought that was a little ignorant of team history, and it just feels like a hollow message. I think for some fans, I understand, every good leader needs to have that kind of confidence, but when all of your key players every year are only getting older as the seasons go by, and your top draft picks since Josh Allen have been, almost non-existent in the playoffs, I don't like that trend, and it's not a good one, in my opinion.
Well, what the alternative to that? I mean, I think the part of the reason that I think if I remember the pocket of the news conference that you were referring to, I think he even used the phrasing "blow it all up." Like, we're not here to blow it all up. It's not called for, and I totally agree with that. So what else do you do besides keep knocking on the door? I mean, they will modify, right? They're going to make changes. There'll be some different players. Now, I don't know, like if you're talking about scheme-wise and philosophy-wise, do you want to just keep doing the same things? That's a conversation. I think they should be looking to, add things to their arsenal here so that they're perhaps more prepared to do more of what the Chiefs did to them in the game on Sunday, which was catch them unprepared for this. Like suddenly, now you can't spring Josh Allen running on them because he runs, right? Mahomes runs, but he doesn't run like that, like designed quarterback keepers for touchdowns. They did things that caught the Bills unaware, so you got to keep evolving. But I think that, the phrasing, to me, it's just what you say, but it makes sense. Like that's what I'm prepared for them to do. I don't know, I don't have a better idea. To me, blowing it up isn't a better idea. Overhauling getting a different defensive philosophy, McDermott turning over the defense to someone who has a totally different scheme. They've been drafting to put players in this scheme for years. So I don't know, man. I think you got to keep knocking.
I just don't really know what else you're supposed to say. Like, this is not everything Brandon Beane is thinking or planning to do. And McDermott just the same. What are they supposed to say? We're disappointed, but we like our stuff. Like, that is true, and it would have to be true, and that is what they say. And it doesn't make today so interesting. We had an hour plus of both guys, and Sal found one remark being made on Coleman that stood out to him. We had a few minutes with McDermott, and it was interesting enough, but it's not exactly going to be groundbreaking. If he wants to change the scheme or do something dramatic as he's thinking ahead to next year already, today is not the day where he announces that, if he ever does. So that's it. Like, they're not going to tell you they've given up trying to beat Kansas City. They're just like, everything we're out here talking about will have to suffice, because you're not getting that. I further didn't take the Beane remark at all to refer back or to ignore the history of the Bills, but the caller did. So it's what every pretty much executive or coach in this situation would say. Isn't it probably how the Colts talked and the Eagles talked and the other teams that had fallen just short for several years running?
Yeah, I think in saying it doesn't mean you're going to be able to speak it into existence or anything. So I mean, in a way, I agree with the caller. Like, just saying we're going to keep knocking and we'll do everything right and it'll break for us.
No, of course.
It might never. But what are you supposed to do? I think you're supposed to keep doing that. At the point they are at on the timeline with their careers and the build of this team, I think that approach is entirely called for. But that's just where we are. It's not. I've said a few times since Sunday. I haven't said it today, and I don't know if I even got it out of my mouth yesterday at all. But the hardest thing to do in a situation like this is remain relatively static, patient. With the whole production. Again, that doesn't mean all the personnel comes back and I have to absolutely re-sign Amari Cooper because he was on the team and we made the AFC Championship game. And Von Miller has to be there'll be changes. And hopefully those changes result in improvement. You get better players. You get, someone coming off the edge that, isn't working off multiple ACL injuries and is 35 years old. Because, that's probably run its course. But, yeah, the opposite of keep knocking on the door, keep trying to kick the door down, is something radical. And my opinion is nothing radical was called for.
Same. The offseason will be challenging for, optimism, relatively challenging, and for, I think, analysis, because the situation just further from last year to this year lends itself to this idea that, well, you just can't win it. You just can't do it. Another chance, another close game, and so many people thought it was sort of their turn, their time to win, and they didn't, in almost incredibly similar fashion to last year, with a chance, down 3, against Kansas City. 2-minute warning happens. You're right there and end up losing the game in regulation. So I think just what happens is more of the conversation is about the historical, the perspective on Kansas City, whether they win or lose on Sunday, but next Sunday, but especially if they win, and what the Bills and, for that matter, the Ravens have failed to do. And, that kind of thing is how we all get by, make a living. But it doesn't do Bean or McDermott any good at all. None of it does. They know, just like everybody else knows, the score. But it does nobody over there any good to come to a point where, you sort of give up on it. I mean, I don't know. I guess somebody could say, well, what they should do is dramatic changes. I mean, there are people saying that, but I just don't think that's realistic or that's coming. And so in that situation, what do you say? How do you act? Let's try again.
Yeah.
We like our guys. Let's try again. And that's, what we're going to have here.
Yeah, I don't think it's realistic or coming or called for. And then for me, the third one matters. Because if I thought it was, I would be clamoring for it. I think the margins are incredibly slim. We said it even after this time last week, or maybe it was a day or two earlier. Mark Andrews catches that pass. What are we doing in here? Is McDermott awful again because Baltimore tied them on a 2-point conversion and they lost in overtime or something? What? It's incredible how close it is. And look, that doesn't excuse wanting to find a solution. I think everyone, whether I think your idea is horrible, I think you're coming probably from a place where we all want the same thing. You want them to win. And so it can be hard to sit and stay patient. It's for some reason it's dawning on me as we're talking. Something you just said tripped the wire for me that maybe, and I haven't heard this point made. I know I haven't made it, and forgive me if you have and I didn't notice, but the optimism that there was going into this game from fans was different. Considering the scars we've all got, whether you go back to the 90s or not, or you came in during the drought, or you're just here since these playoff losses started. Again, playoff losses. All of these playoff losses in a row, woe is me. Going into that game, there was it was just more optimism. There was a lot less of, they'll never do it. The stadium's built on a graveyard. There was just way less of that. We're cursed, all that. And man, at moments like that, it stings all the more when they don't come through. Because what happens the next time is it gets harder to do that. We were in a very unique place considering off-season expectations being somewhat muted. I don't want to overstate that. I didn't think they were going to be terrible. I don't think a lot of people thought they were going to be terrible. But I think a lot of people thought they were going to be different and less of a contender than they had been the previous 4 seasons, and they weren't. They made it as far as they made it since this window flew open in 2020 this time. And that, in and of itself, produced a new sort of, I think. And that's gone. That's going to be very hard to reproduce that again next January. It doesn't mean that the result will be the same. Just to say, I'm a vibes guy. The vibes will be tough to raise to the level that they were last week at this time. Because I think, I don't want to say unprecedented, but it was about as optimistic as I've heard it sound in a while.
I guess the thing, it's one argument. The thing that worried me all year, this is not a point about having a deep threat, but in terms of the race, was always just the advantage of that break, especially if you don't need Week 18, and the Chiefs didn't. And that team, as I would put it, and I think you've said it, in the lab, that coach, those 2 coaches, with the extra time to look ahead and prepare ahead, that a team that had to play in the wild card round was not afforded, is a huge advantage. That particular team, and that they looked so not good, so not themselves all year. Well, you've got a break here. It's like a bye week at the most critical time of the season to sit with it and to work out kinks and make sort of other adjustments that even a team as familiar as the Bills would have been to them, and vice versa, might not see coming. And isn't that exactly what we came out of Sunday night talking about, is players who weren't prepared for Patrick Mahomes' RPO plays, and the Bills having to adjust because the Chiefs were getting the ball out fast, like McDermott talked about earlier with us. And then ultimately the play on which the season ended, where the Chiefs did a thing that the Bills had not seen from them. That's exactly the point. Home field, which gives you more of an edge, whether it's officials, which we're talking about from this game, or, the timing, as we talked about more with Baltimore the week before, the slight or not so slight disadvantage you face. All of that was there.
Yeah.
We had it. And the fact that the Chiefs struggled against the Raiders and the Panthers this year didn't show on Sunday in this game, and part of that is those things. Like, everybody knows that it's better to not have to play the first round and to play at home and all this, but the point I guess I want to use this for is, since the caller is talking about what Brandon Beane said or didn't say, like, the difference is right there. Arguably, the difference is right there, and there's only so much about that the Bills or any team can control. Any team playing in that spot, as the Chiefs have proven over the years, they've beaten other teams too, is in tough. It's really on, last year.
Yeah.
The Chiefs and the Bills and the Ravens, rather, not taking advantage of what they had last year.
I would love to know. Like, I don't know how public this will get, maybe after the Super Bowl, or maybe it'll be after the 30 for 30 or the book is written about the Chiefs. Like, in this particular season, with the way their year went, right? They didn't need to play Week 18. They clinched the 1. So they've got that week, the wild card week, and, of course, they've got a game in the divisional round. They got to play Houston. They had just played Houston.
Right.
Like, how is Andy Reid, like, delegating part of his offensive coaching staff? All right, you guys spend 3 days this week, right, in the run-up to Week 18. Spend 3 days. Let's get to work on the Bills. You guys get to work on the Ravens. Those are our two most likely impediments. If we end up being wrong about that, then we'll have a normal work week preparing for whoever ends up being there. For some reason, oh, my God, it's the Denver Broncos. Whoa! But, you've got the time. I doubt all the position coaches and everyone there were sitting around with their feet up, smoking cigars, going, hey, we clinched the 1. So you've got all that time. And the Bills simply didn't. Nobody else in the league did. Well, Detroit did. Although they had to play Week 18, so they didn't even get that extra week.
That's right.
I mean, there's so much value in that. There's just a lot. And I should remember that the next time I'm thinking, like, well, they look bad all year. The Bills are going to get them. They're going to roll them. They can't. Man, you give that dude 3 weeks to get ready to play you? Good luck.
Good luck, indeed. Good luck, indeed. One thing we've not talked about today is Gene Hackman turning 95.
Okay.
I want to send a happy birthday message.
Happy birthday, Gene Hackman.
To Gene Hackman. 95.
It's a hell of a run.
Does this seem right?
Sure. Yeah.
Everybody's so old now.
You know who else is old?
Me?
Yeah.
Gene Hackman, first movie in the eventual, the sad day when it comes.
Gene Hackman, who came to prominence in the 70s as the star of The French Connection.
Yes.
I think.
French Connection, I think, would be. I've never seen it. I should see it.
It's really good, yeah.
That would be his number one. Not Lex Luthor?
No.
Although, hat tip for that role.
Sure.
I haven't seen him in that many movies because I don't, I'm not an action movie guy, really.
Yeah.
So, Superman, that's an action movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Superman, No Way Out.
Okay, sure.
Kind of a thriller.
Yeah.
No Way Out. Gene Hackman.
Hoosiers.
Damn, right there with that. Hoosiers, that's right. Wouldn't be number one, but it'd be up there. Mentioned prominently. Yes. Norman Dale.
Yeah.
I have seen Hoosiers.
Of course you have.
Yeah, I've seen that movie.
It's a rule. We're working sports radio, you have to watch Hoosiers once, at least.
Many, many others. Many, many other movies. But he's not acted in many years. He's 95.
No, he is enjoying the sunset years of his life in New Mexico. I've read about him before. He lives. I don't know if it's Santa Fe or where, but he's been in New Mexico for a long time.
You've been there.
I have, only once.
I've never been to New Mexico.
My kid lived there for a year and a half. I went and visited once. Then he gave up hockey. I never get to go back. I was looking forward to going back, but that was the end of it.
For now.
Albuquerque, I barely got to know you, Albuquerque.
Right.
Amarillo, I got to Wichita Falls.
West Texas.
I got to some places. Yeah.
You did. I don't have that.
It was a hell of a run. Well, you're just starting.
I don't have Dallas. I've never been to Dallas.
I drove out of Dallas. I flew into Dallas both times, actually, but I flew to Amarillo from Dallas. I drove to Wichita Falls.
You flew to Amarillo, Texas. How big an airport is that? Not big?
Walk off the plane on the runway. Like it's,
what are those?
It's like Bahamas big. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Rental cars are like I could see the car I ended up renting when I walked down the stairs of the plane. Like everything's just right there. It's just like, okay. I mean, I didn't know it was my car, but like I saw a bunch of cars, like those are the rental cars, and like, okay, there's my car.
Amarillo. Love it. Well, there's that. Brandon Beane spoke earlier, taking questions. We've been talking about him and Sean McDermott and some of what they had to say throughout the afternoon. We haven't heard, I had Beane on our show here, but we'll do some of that from this morning when we come back. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. This is WGR.